Chapter 843. Thea lowered her head to calculate as she drew a magic circle. Don't worry, my portal can send everyone in, but I need some time to dismantle your OUA's space gap. I don't want to go in. Only Laughlitz could say something like that. Thea lowered her head and ignored him. The method used by the Guardians was completely different from hers, more like a technological method. Fortunately, she was a genuine grand wizard, and with her suppressive level, she quickly found a flaw. A bright and colorful portal was directly erected. The black lanterns in the distance had already discovered them, and swarmed towards them like mosquitoes and flies. Go in, go in. Thea ordered her subordinates to go in immediately. The green lanterns were the most active, and the yellow lanterns were still unwilling to fight alongside the green lanterns, but under her strong pressure, they chose to obey. The remaining purple lanterns, blue lanterns, and red lanterns entered the portal one by one. Laughlitz wanted to run, and his eyes were evasive. You get in too. Grabbing him by the collar, Sia threw Laughlitz, who was trying to slip away, into the room. She raised her hand and a fire tornado and 2 chain lightning repelled the black lanterns. She was the last to enter the portal and cancelled the teleportation. Her main goal was to meet up with the green lanterns, and she did not want to be attacked from both sides. The other side of the portal was very crowded. Seth and Gonda were hugging each other, and the remaining green lanterns were looking at the 6 lanterns in a daze. The intensity of the battle was too high, and it made them a little slow. On the other hand, they all had the same thought. Damn, there are so many colorful lights in the universe. Akiro! Give me back my brother's life. A nameless character saw the Yellow Lantern General Akiro, and rushed towards him like a madman, ignoring his trembling body. Sinisto! You traitor! A few other mentally retarded people mixed their own planet's dialect with the common language, and yelled that they wanted to clean house. Sinisto was extremely brave, and even dared to punch the Heavenly Father, so he did not care about these nameless characters, and raised his left hand to attack. Thea hurriedly pulled him back, and at the same time, as if she was pushing an old woman, she knocked down a few stupid green lanterns in one move. How did they survive until now when they came to fight without seeing anything? Idiots! I know you don't believe it, but the green light mixed with any kind of light can defeat those black lights. But that's not the main point. The main point is that we have to break out immediately. A bunch of brainless green lanterns. Telling them about the disaster that the universe was facing was simply unrealistic. They would not believe it at all. Thea's plan was to kill their way out and then find a place to have a chat. Gonda immediately responded. As the most humane guardian, he had a high prestige among the Green Lanterns. Especially now that there was no news of the remaining Guardians, everyone chose to obey. However, there were still many Green Lanterns who avoided eye contact, as if they were afraid that the Yellow Lanterns would sneak up on them from behind. They weren't vigilant when they should have been. Thea secretly commented on this group of people. That's right. Let's kill our way out first. We'll talk later. The alien Green Lantern with a fish head and 4 arms was the first to respond. Thea knew him. He was Sarek, the Green Lantern who controlled all kinds of chores on the main planet of Ura, or rather, the Green Lantern Supervisor. He was usually responsible for some of the missions issued by the higher-ups. To some extent, he was the bridge between the Guardians and the Green Lanterns. Yes, let's kill our way out. A few of Hal Jordan's friends who had seen Thea also voiced their support. There was harmony, and naturally, there were disharmony. Shut up. You betrayed the Green Lanterns. You're not my father. I have nothing to do with you. A purple-skinned woman pointed her finger at Sinisto, wanting to eat him up. Sinisto raised his arm and wanted to slap her. Thea could only grab him again. She had seen this woman before. She was Solanique Natu, Sinisto's daughter. Back in Corriga, Sinisto's family who did not betray the Green Lanterns were actually very happy. Unfortunately, everything had changed. If there's anything, you father and daughter can go out and fight. I don't care even if you kill me. Now behave yourselves. The pressure that belonged to the gods surged in all directions. Intelligent creatures could feel a throbbing from their souls. Laughlitz hid behind Attakaitas. I don't care what grudges you had before. Now shut up. I showed mercy last time in OUA. Do you really think I won't dare to kill? A group of people then connected Thea to the people who fought the Green Lanterns and the Guardians. The large-scale soul shock last time had caused them to rest for a few months. They had just recovered. In fact, they were also complaining in their hearts. You were wearing regular clothes last time. This time, you've changed into a disguise. We don't know you. In the eyes of the aliens, Earthlings all looked the same. You change clothes every day. Who would know you? No matter how much the Green Lanterns complained, the strong were respected. At least they understood this principle of the universe. The crowd quieted down, tacitly acknowledging the fact that they were fighting side by side. Thea looked at the Saint. She had to at least apply the buff before attacking. The Saint understood and raised his right hand. The remaining 3 members also raised the blue lamp that symbolized hope. The blue light shone brightly, followed by the exclamations of the Green Lanterns and Red Lanterns. Oh my God, my ring can recharge itself. 110%, 115%, the ring can break through the limit. Except for a few Green Lanterns who had participated in the Battle of Darkseid on Earth, it was the first time for most people to enjoy the ring breaking through the limit. For a moment, they felt that they were full of energy. The better the ring's material could reach 150%, and the worse ones could reach 120%. Thea looked at Atakaitas. Let's see the bravery of the Red Lantern Corps. Of course, Atakaitas didn't want to be the vanguard. The Red Lanterns were violent, but they weren't stupid. There were hundreds of thousands of enemies outside, and it would be dangerous to be the first to rush out. But he couldn't not go. He looked violent, but when he was still called Atakaitas, he was a psychologist. When he became the leader of the Red Lantern Corps, anger didn't overwhelm his rationality. Instead, it gave him a new ability, divination. Using the bones of the enemy to perform divination, this guy could be considered a mystical to a certain extent. Said found LoveLore and contacted the Red Lantern with the intention of giving it a try. He didn't expect LoveLore to agree. This was the reason why the Red Lantern Corps was here. The divination told him that he had to come. There would be benefits if he came, but if he didn't, he would die. Thea saw that he didn't move and was a little impatient. What was the meaning of this? Not listening to orders? I'll go. Although he was more than 2 meters tall, much taller than Thea, he felt like a dwarf. His gaze became colder and colder as he looked at Thea. He didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly led his subordinates to charge out. Thea gave Qing-Nu a look. Qing-Nu led more than 100 people and followed closely behind the Red Lantern Corps. Atakaitas was a long-lived species. He had lived for hundreds of millions of years since the massacre in Sector 666. His combat experience could only be described as rich. This was his fighting style. He conjured a blood-red great axe and shield and charged left and right amidst a group of black lanterns. His subordinates were much worse. They were all like madmen, violently attacking any enemy they caught. There was no formation to counter them at all. Unlike the other 6 lanterns, anger energy surged in their bodies instead of blood. They could spit out this energy in battle and inflict heavy damage to their enemies. But that little bit of damage was nothing to the Black Lanterns. Qing-Nu was on the battlefield, but she still maintained her otherworldly demeanor. The Blue Lanterns didn't use rings. Instead, they used a kind of cane. One of the important functions of the cane was that it could borrow light for a short period of time. Knowing why Thea wanted them to come out, the Blue Lanterns took turns to use their 7-colored light as if they were performing. Naturally, there was also green light among them. Chapter 844. The green lights were dumbfounded. So, it's not us. Their mentality fell from being saviors to the ground, and they began to consider some practical problems. See? Green light with any type of light can make the Black Lanterns go offline. Don't hesitate. Kill our way out of OUA and head to the main planet of the Blue Lanterns. Thea gave the order to break out. The green lights responded in unison. They saw Qing-Nu and her subordinates working together to destroy the Black Lanterns. Their morale was greatly boosted. As long as they could kill the Black Lanterns, it was fine. They had been fighting for half a day, and none of them had died. That was too desperate. The Yellow Lanterns seemed to want to prove that they were stronger than the Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns did not back down. They were all elites. If the Black Lanterns could be killed, then there was nothing to be afraid of. After all, the resurrection was a corpse, not the person himself. If the Black Lanterns went offline after hitting the ring, then they would only have 2 health points. They could win with a little cooperation. For a moment, the main planet of OUA was illuminated by a 7-colored light. Everyone rushed out together. Whether it was teleportation or flying, it was better than being trapped in OUA. In order to let them practice their cooperation, Thea used the excuse of running out of teleportation materials and followed the main group. Halfway through, Sarek suddenly thought of a problem. He asked Ganthercide, "What about the central power? Without it, the ring will run out of energy very quickly." Thea was surprised. "You still have the central power?" Sarek said truthfully, "As long as the Green Lanterns are in OUA, the central power will never go out." He looked like a devout believer. Thea was a little amused. "You guys are too idealistic. Do you think you have the central power just because you have the Green Lanterns? How did you deduce this causal relationship? How could you believe this kind of nonsense?" It was the ion shark that was supplying the power. She looked at Ganthercide with a half-smile. The ion shark could not be abandoned. It was the oldest lantern beast. There were so many people in the 7-Lantern Corps. It would take some effort to carry it back. The central power was easy to find. It was dozens of meters tall and could be seen by anyone with eyes. The main group made a slight turn and rushed out while carrying the central power. Just as they were about to rush out of OUA, the black lanterns behind them covered the sky. The leader was the giant Mungo. There were also countless enemies in front of them. "I'll cover you guys." Hal Jordan's good friend, the hippo head Kilowog, stood out bravely. He wanted to use his own strength to stop the pursuers behind him and buy time for the rest of the team. Green Lantern's courage was not for show. In an instant, more than 10 Green Lanterns stood out, ready to fight to the death to bring up the rear. No need. Keep up with the main group. I have my own arrangements. Get over here." Thea grabbed Orange Lantern Lafriz. This guy was slacking in front of her. Even if she could tolerate it, she couldn't. "Use your materialization to block the pursuers behind us." Many of them had never seen an Orange Lantern before. Kilowog and the others couldn't bear to watch the skinny Lafliz do it. The giant Mungo in the distance had an arm thicker than Lafliz's waist. Even the Black Lantern couldn't hide his brutal aura. Which of the remaining people who could be left behind by the Guardians to boast about their battle achievements weren't famous fierce people? The Green Lanterns felt that Lafliz wouldn't even be able to make a splash. Wasn't this sacrifice in vain? Thea found it funny. She didn't expose the cruel reality. Your lantern rings had 100% energy, but this guy's energy was 100,000%. It was like a bug in the system. Sometimes she even wondered if it was because God was attached to the Schnauzer, so he had a special preference for the dog-headed guy. Otherwise, it didn't make sense that the Orange Lantern was so ridiculously strong. Lafliz was 120% unwilling, but under Thea's coercion, he could only release a bunch of lantern rings to stop the pursuers. A few Green Lanterns, who were full of courage and prepared to cover the rear, were shocked when they saw the overwhelming orange brilliance that filled their vision. They didn't know the special characteristics of the orange lamp ring, and thought that Lafliz was a hidden expert. A bunch of people rushed out of Yura's main star with the Green Lantern's main energy source. The Green Lanterns worked together to lead the team back to Yura's main star. The Blue Lantern's main star's quiet and comfortable environment filled with positive emotions made many Green Lanterns relax. A bunch of people were either lying down or sitting down. They were all exhausted. Thea led a few leaders to a unified view. Actually, there was no consensus. Wasn't the reason why they spent so much effort to save them to support Earth? The Yellow Lanterns and the Green Lanterns who were directly under her had no objections. Sinisto was gloriously ignored. The Blue Lanterns who were partly under her, and the Orange Lanterns who were intimidated into silence also had no objections. The leader of the Purple Lanterns, Carol Ferris, was an Earthling. She couldn't wait to fly back. The Red Lanterns Attikitas divined and agreed to support Earth. The only trouble was the Green Lanterns. Sarek was puzzled. Why do we have to go to Earth? There are so many planets in the universe that are suffering. Why don't we support them? Or we can take back Yura's main star. Thea glanced at Gonda. The little blue man shook his head slightly at her, indicating that he couldn't say anything about the spirit of existence. She couldn't explain it to this bunch of Green Lanterns, so she could only let them fight among themselves. She summoned the few Green Lanterns from Earth. Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and the newcomer Kyle Rayner, regardless of whether they knew each other or not, spread out to the crowd to explain the importance of supporting Earth. Hal Jordan was a popular man. Half of the army had bragged and drunk with him. Although a bunch of people felt that the reason was a bit far-fetched, they still decided to go to Earth. Some gave face, and naturally, there were also cynical remarks that didn't give face. Thea stopped Hal, who was about to go fight. Those who don't want to go can stay here and protect Odium. We can't lose the main star of the Blue Lanterns. If Earth is lost, we can still fight back from here. The large group immediately split up. The Green Lanterns left more than 300 people, and Thea also left more than 300 Yellow Lanterns, who didn't look so good, to help defend. The rest all went to Earth. Thea, Barry said that a big guy came out of Seaside City. Diana said in the long-distance communication. Was the Black Death Emperor finally summoned? Thea's eyes narrowed. The moment had finally come. She had a brief conversation with Gonda, and the little blue man nodded at her. Thea immediately took Green Lantern Hal Jordan, Yellow Lantern Sinisto, Green Lantern Lady, Blue Lantern Saint, Red Lantern Atakitas, Purple Lantern Carol Ferris, and the unwilling Orange Lantern Laflas to Earth first. She found Diana first. The Valkyrie was surrounded by the Black Lanterns. Maxwell Lauder, the traitor in the Darkside War, was pulled up by the Black Lanterns again. He immediately gathered the Black Lanterns to find Diana. 7 lanterns descended. Maxwell saw that the situation was bad and turned to run. They didn't have time to care about such a small character. They fought and retreated, and finally broke out of the encirclement. A huge Black Lantern energy has descended on Seaside City. Barry is there. He said that he also saw a tall black shadow. Diana said urgently. Chapter 845. Now that Black Death King had appeared, Thea certainly wouldn't run over and start the fight. She brought 7 lanterns, Diana and herself, as well as the Flash who was running around Seaside City to observe. There were only 10 of them. A superboss like Black Death King had to be fought together. If 40 companions weren't enough, she would bring 400. She had to cultivate everyone's initiative. After all, Earth wasn't her home. After sensing everyone's location, Thea found the Flash and brought them to the mothership to discuss the final battle. The serious black man with an eye patch was becoming more and more like the braised egg next door. As Thea listened to him giving out various orders, she felt a sense of accomplishment. The black man's situation was much better than that of the original spacetime where he didn't have a job and had to take care of his wife and children. There were many superheroes on the mothership. Although some heroes could fly, they couldn't fly as fast as the mothership. Not to mention, they could rest here and have all kinds of backup. Most importantly, the mothership's stealth technology was very good. Other than Superman, who was not afraid of anything, the rest of the superheroes were basically here. There was the International League, the Female League, Amanda's Suicide Squad, and some young heroes. Like Red Robin, Wonder Girl, Damian, Raven, Beast Boy, Blue Beetle and so on. Ha! Why are these guys here? The Flash was a little confused as he looked at a few familiar faces. They were all his good neighbors in the Central City. Captain Frigid, Heatwave, the weather wizard who was pardoned after the rain in the New World, Captain Frigid's sister, Golden Glider, and Mirror Master who could pass through glass. We're here to help, Captain Frigid said ambiguously, then closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. What help? They were clearly here to take refuge. Thea knew that the passage between the two worlds in the Central City was now wide open. From time to time, a few Black Lanterns would jump out. Cisco, Caitlin, Wally West, Bart Allen, and the other superheroes from Earth 2 were guarding there. However, she didn't expose them. Captain Lang and his gang were not bad people. They followed the principle of, don't kill unless it's absolutely necessary. They never bullied women and children. Their main business was to play with the Flash, and their side business was to rob banks when they had nothing to do. To be honest, with the money they robbed, any banker or economic expert could make money faster than them. It could be said that these guys were basically harmless. After pulling Diana away, Thea was about to meet up with the Zhonglian Alliance to discuss the next step of the plan when she bumped into 2 people. Constantine, Zatanna, why are you here? Did something happen in the New World? Constantine's face was pale. Zatanna could only explain, the new continent is fine, but we heard that a few old friends have been revived. There were too many resurrected people, so Thea did not have time to observe them one by one. She asked casually, who are they? The ones from the Cold Flame Vatican who died before. Mage Sagan, Great Alchemist Tanarak, And I heard that someone saw my father. Giovanni Zatara. Zatanna nodded. There's also Nick Nacro and Felix Faust, Constantine added. Thea scratched her head at the sudden revival of so many magicians. She was the one who killed Felix Faust, and Nick Nacro had nothing to do with her. This man was Constantine and Zatanna's old friend. Constantine's yellow trench coat with high magic resistance originally belonged to Nick Nacro. However, these guys were no longer worth her concern. The Great Mage in the eyes of the world and the Great Mage in her eyes were completely different concepts. Thea thought for a moment. In order to deal with these 5 Great Mages who had been revived, she urgently mobilized 500 spellbreakers from the new creation planet's Magic Legion. It was more than enough to kill Black Lanterns and magicians. The Heavenly Father did not care about such a small matter. The 500 people came very quickly. A sonic boom opened, and 500 magic warriors in bright armor immediately came to receive orders. Thea glanced at Zatanna, meaning, "Is this enough? Not to mention your father's revival. Even your ancestor Da Vinci's revival can make him die again." Knowing that she had returned with the 7 lanterns and Superman had entered the mothership, everyone briefly introduced the information they had. In the end, there was nothing much to say. The enemy was at their doorstep. Let's fight. Everything was still going according to the original plan. The Black Lantern's main energy source descended on Earth. It directly chose Seaside City, which was half destroyed by the Parallax Devils and rebuilt. Now, it was completely a sea of corpses. Countless Black Lanterns occupied this place. In the center of the city, in front of the huge Black Lantern's main energy source stood several figures. Floating in the air was the traitorous guardian, Scarface. The black chains in her hands were still binding her 7 former guardians. There was also a crazy guy, the Earthling William Hand, codenamed Blackhand. He was hugging 2 corpses and mumbling to himself. In the middle stood a tall figure. His hair was sparse and white, and his skin was covered with dark spots. His whole body was like a corpse. He wore a black robe, and there were huge shackles on his wrists and neck. However, the shackles had long been broken. The most eye-catching thing was the huge scythe in his hand. The scythe seemed to be able to absorb light. It was pitch black, and if an ordinary person looked at it, their heart would beat wildly, as if they were looking at a disaster. Even from a few miles away, the extraordinary aura of the Black Death Emperor could be felt. Come. Thea carefully observed the path that the Black Death Emperor took. His goal was to die peacefully, to die silently. To live peacefully, to die peacefully. There were no waves, no passion, only a process that looked like a program. All the intelligent lives were like floating sand in a long river in his eyes. They flowed down with the current without leaving any trace. Although the sand was almost endless, he did not care. He only wanted them to finish this journey peacefully. Thea frowned and carefully felt the principles behind it. The Black Death Emperor's death was different from hers. However, even if he did not take this path, there was no harm in observing. Other heroes did not have this realm. Diana knew that she was trying to reach the depths of the soul. She was worried that her lover would eventually go down the evil path. She was prepared to persuade her during their next interaction, but she did not stop her now that they were facing a great enemy. The 7 lanterns were the first to rush out of the mothership. They were all ordinary people and could only feel the bone-chilling coldness. This guy with the scythe was like their natural enemy. Is this guy a lantern beast? Carol asked. She had seen the purple lantern beast raiders before. Thea chuckled. He's not. He's death itself. He represents the death of life. Such idealistic and even philosophical words made the 7 lanterns a little dizzy. Only the magicians Constantine and Zatanna felt that they understood. Chapter 846. Let's attack. Hal Jordan charged forward without hesitation. Carol Ferris, his ex-girlfriend and current lover, was afraid that something would happen to him, so she charged forward as well. The rest of them, except for Laughless, also launched their own attacks. Unfortunately, there were too few of them. The Black Lanterns blocked the 6 of them. Blackhand, Scarface, and even the Black Death King remained motionless. Scarface was commanding the army, and Blackhand was still holding the 2 corpses in a daze. The Black Death King was a little strange. Thea noticed that his attention seemed to be on his feet, and he didn't even look at the 7 lanterns' attacks. Countless citizens turned into Black Lantern warriors, accompanied by a considerable number of people with superpowers. Just Sia alone had seen Charm Witch, Killer Crocodile, Captain Boomerang, Maxwell Lauder, the second-generation Blue Beetle, Reverse Lightning, a few Archmages, and many other familiar faces. "Let's go too," Thea said to Diana and Laffles beside her. The Valkyrie flew up to deal with Scarface, and Laffles unwillingly joined the battle after being kicked. The superheroes also joined the battle. After fighting with the Black Lanterns for a night, they had figured out the pattern. These corpses couldn't be killed, but they could be injured and handed over to the Lanterns to deal with. "Everyone, follow me. There's something wrong with that big guy. He seems to be doing something. We have to stop him no matter what." Thea originally wanted to delay a little more, but suddenly, a will asked her for help. The voice was weak and almost inaudible. She listened for a long time before she realized that it was the will of the world. The spirit of existence was relying on the will of the world to beg her for help. Once the spirit of existence was born, the whole world would be in turmoil. The eyes of the universe's strongest would fall on Earth, and no one would be able to stand it. If there were a few Earthlings who wanted to blow up Earth to see what the spirit of existence was, it would be even more troublesome. She didn't gather the 7 lanterns because she wanted to see the difference between herself and the Black Death King. "Go back!" A middle-aged man with a top hat flew in the air and tried to stop her. He was using Zatanna's family's irony magic. Sia didn't even look at it. Irony magic was nothing to her. She wasn't even afraid of the person herself, let alone this black lamp. He waved his hand and cast a disintegrate spell on Black Lantern Zatara. Zatara was caught off guard and shattered into powder like glass. He lay on the ground and slowly recovered. Facing the Black Death Emperor, Thea felt very calm. There was no doubt that the other party was stronger than her. In the multiverse where this level was equivalent to combat power, the Black Death Emperor was unquestionably a peak existence. Thea couldn't defeat Darkseid, but Darkseid couldn't defeat Black Death King either. Logically speaking, Black Death Emperor should have been able to crush Thea, but his huge scythe slashed diagonally across the sky. Thea focused half of her soul godly power and reached out with her left hand. When the two sides collided, a formless shockwave rippled out, sending her flying more than 10 meters. Although she was in a bit of a sorry state, she didn't have to expend much effort to receive it. Was it because their powers were of the same origin? A was stronger than B was stronger than C, but A might not be able to defeat C. Thea was a bit speechless, but this was good news. There were Black Lanterns all around her, so she wasn't afraid of accidentally injuring them. Countless godly power was mobilized, and thick soul power surrounded her body like a black robe. If the other party attacked her, she would definitely die. She had to be fully prepared before she could fight the other party. In a battle of laws, the use of magic was at its lowest. She was always successful in bullying muscular men, but against Black Death Emperor, magic wasn't useful. Thea pounced again. She found that Black Death Emperor's battle technique was the same. She took out her holy sword and slashed it. Black Death Emperor still used the same trick, but the angle of his attack was slightly off. If the scythe full of death energy was hit, it would be troublesome. Thea kicked the scythe's handle with her left foot and then stepped on it. She used the momentum to approach Black Death Emperor again. Black Death Emperor used the same trick and was wide open, but he didn't panic. The scythe that was stepped on disappeared into thin air and returned to Black Death Emperor's hand. He used the same trick again and slashed at her for the 3rd time. Thea didn't dare to use her holy sword to block. Instead, she took out the Eagle Girl's hammer, a weapon forged from end metals, and threw it at the scythe. The blade and the hammer made contact, making a very dull sound. The hammer fell to the ground. Its appearance didn't change, but Thea felt that the hammer seemed to have lost some of its dexterity and became lifeless. Thea then tried to attack a few more times. The scythe was full of power. This was the strongest weapon Thea had seen so far. Ordinary magic weapons would break with a touch, and ordinary steel would shatter into powder. Black Death Emperor was more than 5 meters tall, and the scythe was the same length. It would be dangerous to attack at close range. Thea wanted to fight Black Death Emperor from a distance. She took out the get-rich longbow and couldn't help but feel pity. Black Death Emperor's scythe was one with him. It was more of a manifestation of death and should be classified as an origin weapon, not a divine weapon. The existence of this origin was also beyond the limits of the trade rules. Otherwise, it would be cool to bring the scythe over. A black arrow shot at Black Death Emperor. Black Death Emperor's withered head looked at her curiously. Why did she use such a small arrow? What's the use of it? Black Death King chose to take the arrow head-on. It was like the arrow had hit air. It went in from the front and came out from the back. The god power on the arrow was completely wiped out. It was less than a meter away from Black Death King's body, and it turned into dust. Well, Thea was stunned. This arrow was just a test. Black Death Emperor didn't need to absorb the whole arrow. She looked at him and found that Black Death Emperor's aura was slightly stronger. Thea almost cursed. This guy looked listless, but he was actually very cunning. He provoked Thea to attack, but he didn't dodge at all. He was waiting for her death. As the Lord of Souls, her understanding of death was definitely not as deep as Black Death Emperor's, but it was still useful. Humph. Looking at Black Death Emperor's calm face, Thea felt like he was mocking her. I'll let you have a taste of this. She drew the bow and knocked an arrow. This time, the arrow was imbued with anger. She wanted to see if this guy, who had never said anything, would fly into a rage. The arrowhead was as red as blood. The arrow was wrapped in a red mist-like energy. It shot towards Black Death Emperor with a long tail of flame. The explosion of emotions attracted Atakaitis's attention. He kicked over the black lamps around him and stared at Black Death Emperor without blinking. He wanted to see if this arrow could hurt this big guy. Black Death Emperor wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't just stand there like a target for everyone to attack and practice their long-range skills. Realizing that the energy on the arrow had nothing to do with death, he swung his scythe to cut the arrow. However, he found that the arrow was coming at a tricky angle. His scythe was too long and too big. He had to lean to the side to have a good angle. Chapter 847. Just as Thea predicted, Black Death King didn't move at all. He grabbed the arrow with his left hand and crushed it into powder. The bright red energy didn't disappear because of the loss of the carrier. Instead, it climbed up his arm along his palm. Haha! It's anger! It's hot blood! Atakaitis saw the anger in Black Death King's hand burning brighter and brighter. He was even happier than Thea, as if it was his victory. His morale was high. He knocked down a black lantern with his elbow and sprayed another black lantern with blood energy. What's this guy so happy about? Looking at Atakaitis, who was almost dancing in excitement, Natasha was a bit confused. She didn't stop. Hope, fear, pity, and anger were attached to the arrows alternately. Every time she shot an arrow, she would change her target and shoot at Black Death King. Black Death King didn't move his feet. Something was wrong. She had to lure him. Thea didn't attack blindly. She was still trying to mix several emotions into one arrow. Without the super cheat that Big Brother Fate had given Kyle Rayner, she could only rely on the accumulation of her divine heritage. Anger and fear were undoubtedly negative emotions. Hope was positive, while pity was positive. In fact, it was a very inclusive emotion. It could be seen from how Qing Nu and the others could freely use the other 6 lanterns. Thea used pity as the foundation and added the other emotions in turn. Black Death King didn't fight back. Thea couldn't figure out why he didn't move his feet and kept shooting arrows without mercy. Pa! A bloody wound appeared on Black Death King's left hand, and a rotten smell came out. Along with it came the energy of the 4 emotions, but these emotions were all contaminated and couldn't be absorbed again. Help! Thea vaguely heard someone's voice in Black Death King's body. The voice was as soft as a mosquito and also familiar. It sounded like the Dead Man and the Atom Man? At this moment, Black Death King couldn't move his feet. His left hand was expelling all kinds of unnecessary emotions, and his right hand was holding the scythe. 2 little people popped up in Thea's mind. One of them asked her to grab the scythe. This thing had a certain death effect and was very powerful. However, it was a bit embarrassing to grab it. After all, she was a goddess. The other little person clapped his hands and shouted, "Good, good, go quickly." She didn't have time to think. While the Black Death Emperor was clearing his emotions, she covered her hand with soul power and grabbed the death scythe. At the same time, she poured a huge amount of divine power into the scythe. In the previous exchange, she had already discovered that this scythe had a higher requirement for purity. It was automatic when there were no external forces, but once there were external forces, only the Black Death Emperor could do it. She was afraid that the other party would take it away halfway, so she didn't care about the consumption and directly filled up her own god power. Hee hee, I do have a bit of fate with this item. Who cares if it's an origin weapon or not? I'll take it and study it. That was what Thea thought, and that was what she did. One grab. He couldn't grab it. It was as if the Black Death Emperor was rooted to the ground and gripped his weapon tightly. Thea felt that something was off. She had to let him walk. If the enemy wants to do something, we must destroy it. This guiding principle is absolutely correct. Originally, Thea wanted to act like an expert, but she found that no matter how hard she tried, Black Death Emperor wouldn't budge. Was it really that strong? Her one hand turned into two, but he still didn't move. Although she wasn't good at strength, she wasn't that far off. Besides, what was this guy's feat? Was it the spirit of existence? No matter what he wanted to do, she had to destroy it. Diana, come help me. Cara, Fiora, come over. The young mistress had never had high moral values. Seeing that she was no match for him in this tug-of-war competition, she shamelessly called for help. As the Black Lanterns gathered, Earth superheroes were also in a tough battle. Superman, Supergirl, the Righteous Alliance, the International Righteous Alliance, and a few other heroes were all present. The Seven Lantern Corps' main force had also arrived. Colorful emotions shone on the Black Lanterns. Although there were countless Black Lanterns, the heroes had already started their counterattack. Hearing the call, Diana and the rest hurried over to help. Don't touch the scythe. Grab me and pull me back. Thea ordered loudly. Then, Diana hugged her waist, Cara and Fiora each grabbed one of her legs, and the four of them pulled together. Harder. Harder. They were playing a game of tug-of-war with the Black Death King. By right, the four of them should have pulled the planet away, but the Black Death King still didn't move. Get a few more. I want women, strong ones. Thea continued to make arrangements. Her reputation was indeed high. Raven, Casey, Princess Spark, Starchaser, the new Battle Eagle and White Dove sisters, Mela, Blazing Fire, Icy Frost, Zatanna, and those who could fly and considered themselves strong all went up to help. No one was stupid. The enemy didn't move. There must be a reason behind it. The bunch of heroines had lost their image, but they didn't mind because Superman and the rest were dumbfounded. Don't grab my breasts. Who is this? Cara looked back with a strange expression while guessing who had touched her. Hug my waist. Don't pull my skirt. Princess Spark couldn't figure out who had pulled her skirt away, and the bunch of women clamored. Sia's goddess-like demeanor was thrown out of the window when she saw the female heroes piled up on top of each other, desperately tugging at the Grim Reaper's scythe. A bunch of people could not touch the scythe and could only drag her along. Some hugged her waist, some hugged her thighs, and some hugged her legs. At this moment, she looked terrible. In contrast, the Black Death King also changed. His robe was still the same, but the unapproachable aura had dissipated. He couldn't care less about the residual emotions in his body. He wanted to get his weapon back. His legs didn't move, but his knees were bent, and he was in a not-so-standard riding position. His hands were also gripping the handle of the scythe tightly. It could be said that the goddess image was completely destroyed. The Black Death King wasn't much better than her. The unparalleled demeanor of the evil king was gone. Now he was like a fool, competing with a bunch of people. The power is enough, but the level is not enough. Thea was a little annoyed. Why didn't the Black Death King let go of her? Her image. Gonda, Akiro, Karo, Ching Nu, release the lantern beasts. Before coming, Thea had communicated with a few lantern beasts. There was no problem with possessing them now. The Black Death King wasn't just a great enemy of intelligent life, he was also a great enemy of the lantern beasts. After all, he was already dead. The Green Lantern Beast, Ion Shark, the oldest lantern beast, found Diana immediately. The God of Valor and the Lantern Beast of Valor were a perfect match. After wearing the yellow lantern for many years and holding the Book of Inspection, Fiora fused with the Parallax Monster. The Purple Lantern Plunderer chose Kara, who was full of love and was willing to sacrifice for love. In the end, Thea fused with the Green Lantern Changer Cuttlebone. She also had compassion as her foundation. Chapter 848. Green, purple, yellow, and cyan lights illuminated the sky, and the strength of the four women increased greatly. Among them, Diana was the most obvious. She wore a soft armor different from the Green Lantern, a green mask, dark green wristbands, boots, bright white stockings, shoulder pads, and a cape. At this time, She was full of firm belief. Even if it was just a glance, one would feel that their courage had increased 1,000 times. God, this appearance is Ion Man? He can become Ion Man without the lantern ring? Green Lantern Sarek, who was in charge of many secrets, asked Gonda with some uncertainty. Yes, Ion Man without the Green Lantern ring, Gonda said calmly. In fact, there was something in his heart that he did not say. The Guardians could fuse with the Lantern Beasts without using the lantern rings. The higher-level new gods would have no problem doing so. However, he did not expect the Ion Shock to be so eager to find Diana. There was almost no hesitation. For the Ion Shock that had lived for hundreds of millions of years, this was simply incredible. Fiora's transformation was the most traditional. She overflowed with the aura of fear, giving people a great sense of power. In terms of clothing, she added shoulder pads, cape, and boots on the basis of the yellow lantern ring. Kara's appearance was completely different. His whole face was covered by a bone mask, a silver-white breastplate, and a purple coat. There were some purple flames around his body that were uncontrollable. Thea was the strongest, so the change had no effect on her. There was only a touch of cyan at the corner of her eyes. She stretched out her hand and pointed at Kara, releasing a psychic shield. Stay awake and remember your mission. Diana and Fiora were both warriors, so she was not worried. Only the purple lantern beast was a little eccentric, so she directly used magic to help Kara. After the flashy lantern beast merged, the overall momentum of the four rose. They could turn the courage of others into strength, and they could turn fear into motivation. This kind of improvement was almost limitless. Purple, green, yellow, and cyan lights lit up one after another. Half of the sky of Seaside City, which was shrouded in dark clouds, was illuminated. It only took 3 seconds for the rhythm to enter the second stage of the tug-of-war. Are you kidding me? You're not even moving. Thea cursed. The lowly who changed her name was quite loyal. She lent all her power to Thea and poked her head out from her shoulder to help encourage her. The remaining 3 fierce women were also gritting their teeth and exerting their strength. They had been fighting in the air, but now that they had landed on the ground, the Black Death Emperor had shrunk his body and turned into a 2-meter-tall skinny man, pitifully engaging in a tug-of-war with a bunch of fierce women. In order to foil the enemy's scheme, the girls created ditches under their feet. A few heroines who could not fly also joined in. The Black Death Emperor was stunned. He was barely holding on. Even though his feet had not left the ground, there were already wisps of black gas coming out from the cracks. Thea was even more certain that there was something wrong with his feet. Lanterns, come and protect us. Superheroes, distract him and attack him. Thea shouted at them. 7 lanterns hurriedly teleported to the inner side and erected a massive materialized defense against the Black Lanterns. Superheroes also used various long-range attacks to attack the Black Death Emperor. Superman's Heat Ray, the Martian Hunter's psychic attack, and the Batfighter also spat out countless bullets filled with fear gas. Squeak! An almost inaudible sound entered Thea's ears. She was overjoyed. The Black Death Emperor almost lost his grip on the scythe. Although he quickly grabbed it with all his strength, it proved that his scythe could be snatched away. Continue. Attack again. Lanterns, send out an elite each and concentrate on attacking him. The Black Lanterns went crazy when they saw their boss's predicament. Scarface commanded the 7 Guardians to attack, but they were all stopped by Green Arrow, Flash, Poseidon, and the others. The 7 Lantern Corps sent out an elite from each of the defense lines with great difficulty to organize the assault. Attack his right hand. Thea was still giving ideas. She bet on her goddess's face that she must get the Black Death Emperor's scythe today. Qing Nu led the other 6 lanterns and fired at the Black Death Emperor's right hand that was holding the scythe. No, it's a little off. Hal, your light is too strong. It's a little weak. La Fleets. Increase your attack power, or I'll kill you. Thea ordered them to create more trouble for the Black Death Emperor as she exerted her strength. She believed that the Black Death Emperor's defeat was only a matter of time. It's moving, it's moving. Supergirl was so tired that she almost fainted. With her good eyesight, she saw the scythe moving 1 centimeter in their direction. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. The Black Death Emperor was in a dilemma. He couldn't give up on his origin weapon, and he wanted to give up on the existence spirit under his feet. However, he was firmly trapped by the rules. He couldn't go in or out. Both sides had reached a critical point. It was a matter of who would give up first. Reality proved that the humans had more people and more power. The power was mixed. Dr. Light, the scientist who unintentionally absorbed a bit of light from Thea's sacred sword because of a scientific experiment, became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Since he had nothing better to do, the scientist shot out a ray of light from each of his hands and directly hit the Black Death Emperor's face. Among the many energy attacks and emotional attacks, his attack was unremarkable, but the effect was surprisingly great. The Black Death Emperor roared. His attention was diverted, and the scythe he was holding with both hands slipped out of his hands. He reacted quickly. The weapon was also his origin. He grabbed the scythe with both hands and pulled the scythe's handle in the opposite direction. Before he could celebrate, countless white lights appeared under his feet. An earth-shattering power suddenly erupted. The life force, which was completely opposite to the death aura, rushed into his body. The Black Death Emperor was caught off guard. He wanted to protect his origin weapon, but he also wanted to grab the existence spirit. In the end, his efforts were in vain. Boom, boom, with 2 consecutive explosions, the origin weapon broke in half. As a part of the Black Death Emperor, it was 120% unwilling to go to Thea's side. However, the girls were too enthusiastic, so the death scythe could only choose to cut in half. It exploded in the middle. If Thea looked at Anka's amulet and checked the ranking, she would see that the Black Death Emperor had dropped 30 places. On the other side, the existence spirit that the Black Death Emperor was about to pull out regained its freedom and cooperated with Thea to give the Black Death Emperor a fierce blow. This existence's left leg exploded. The rotten flesh and blood corroded the ground, creating deep pits. The originally white and withered hair actually had a hint of luster. This was a good thing for the living. It was like a withered tree returning to its youth. However, it was not good for the Black Death Emperor. After the decadent sound last time, he was blasphemed again. This time, it was much fiercer than last time. Last time, it was only a blow from afar, so the decadent sound did not affect him much. This time it was different. This time, his body was attacked by the existence spirit. The life force that all life liked was poison to him. The originally peaceful and melodious death suddenly joined the hustle and bustle of life. He was at a loss. What was the meaning of life? Should life be a happy life or a peaceful death? The existence spirit gave him a big problem. His teeth grew again, and his skin seemed to want to regain its elasticity. The Black Death Emperor felt a palpitation that came from the source of his existence. He screamed and, ignoring the fact that his source was damaged, used the death aura to envelop the life aura and a large amount of the source. He vomited a mouthful of black blood, and in a burst of black and white light, the dead man and the atom man who were exploring his body were also vomited out. Chapter 849. The 2 jokers rolled out of the white light and looked at each other. The feeling of standing on solid ground shocked the dead man. He raised his hands and touched his face. "I think I'm alive," he asked the atom man uncertainly. The atom man had never seen the dead man's original appearance. He looked at the guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes for a long time. "I think so," he said hesitantly. "You 2 jokers, go to the back and chat." Seeing that they still wanted to chat, Thea waved her hand and threw them to the back of the team. "Can't you see that we're still fighting monsters? Since you're alive, why don't you join the team? Why are you standing in front of the boss?" After the annoying guy left, she finally saw Black Death Monarch's miserable state. She was happy, and excited. Black Death Monarch's vitality was greatly damaged this time. Even if he cross-dressed, he wouldn't be able to catch up to her. Haha, after the tug-of-war competition, Thea brought out her goddess-like appearance and let out a bell-like laughter. Looking at the scythe blade and a small section of the scythe in her hand, which contained a lot of Black Death Monarch's knowledge, she wanted to howl at the sky. Although this thing couldn't be used as a weapon, it could still be used for research. This was definitely a win. Thea let the heroines go back to rest. They couldn't help much in the following battle. The lantern beasts also returned to the energy source. Other than Thea, the other 3 hosts were exhausted. Diana, Fiora, and Kara. Among the 3, Diana was the strongest, but the ion shark she possessed was also the oldest lantern beast. It had been fed by the Green Lantern Corps for hundreds of millions of years. The energy it contained was beyond imagination. Other than the goddess of valor like Diana, Most people couldn't accept such a large amount of energy without using cheats. You've lost. Go back to your world. The living don't welcome you. Black Death Monarch didn't look good at this time. His hair was dry again, but there were more strands. The spirit of the living couldn't be dispelled so easily. The funniest thing was that he was holding a stick in his hand. The Grim Reaper's appearance that reaped lives with a scythe instantly turned into the image of a sect master in rags holding a dog-beating stick. The Black Death Emperor stared blankly at Thea, or rather, at the scythe in her hand. Then, he reached out to the black lamp's main energy source, trying to absorb power from it. Don't you dare! Diana took out her lightning spear and was about to throw it. Thea hurriedly reached out to stop her. Look carefully. The power he's absorbing is different from his origin. Of course, she knew that the anti-monitor was now in the Black Lantern's main energy source. If they attacked rashly and released the anti-monitor, Earth would be very lively. Since the Black Death Emperor wanted to absorb the anti-supervisor's power to make up for his loss, then let him. Purely accumulating energy would instead lower his own realm. The young miss was happy to see this happen. It's the opposite of creation. It's similar to Darkseid's godhood of destruction, but it's of a higher level. She did not say too much. Otherwise, she would not be able to explain how she knew that the anti-monitor was trapped in the energy source. She weighed her words carefully and whispered to Diana. Are we just going to watch? Of course not. The Black Death Emperor will not allow destruction to contaminate his own death. He will only absorb part of it. During this time, I need to gather the power of the 7 lanterns to deal with him. Gonda, give me a green lantern ring. Carol, give me a purple lantern ring. Laveritz, don't run, I'm talking about you. Give me an orange lantern ring. She had dabbled in too many fields, but she was still no match for Kyle Rayner, who had a cheat code. Even today, she had only mastered 4 emotions. The orange lantern greed could only be considered a small success. She could not do it without the lantern ring. The green lantern ring and the purple lantern ring were successfully obtained, but the orange lantern ring was difficult. Do you think you can run? Hurry up, don't make me do it. Laveritz wanted to run, but how was that possible? Thea teleported and caught up with him. She grabbed his neck and threatened him for a long time. Laveritz's tears flowed down his face. He looked as if his parents had died and gave her an orange lantern ring. The 3 lantern rings hovered in front of her. She did not put them on immediately. Instead, she needed to first harmonize the 4 emotions in her body. With the most inclusive compassion as the foundation, she added fear, hope, and anger. Then, it was green lantern hope, orange lantern greed, and finally, purple lantern love. Thea and the Black Death Emperor adjusted their states at the same time, preparing for the final battle. The battle outside had also reached its climax. The heroines recovered slightly and joined the battle, leaving only Diana to protect Thea. Hal Jordan, Sinisto, Ching Nu, Saint, Attikitas, Laveritz, and Carol Ferris. The 7 elite lanterns were the most dazzling. They were teaming up to beat up Scarface. Scarface controlled the 7 guardians to fight against the 7 lanterns. The 7 of them were either the leader of the lanterns or the greatest Lantern X, and they cooperated well. They covered each other and kept shrinking the battle line in order to defeat Scarface. In their view, the creation of the Black Lantern Ring, enslaving the Guardians, breaking through OUA, slaughtering the universe's life, and summoning the Black Death Emperor were all this little blue person's fault. She was responsible for the deaths of the universe. Hal, stop being so impatient. Have you forgotten what I taught you back then? Sinisto was very unhappy. Hal Jordan had underestimated the enemy and attacked prematurely, leaving him wide open. He was almost ambushed by a guardian. Don't tell me what to do, the greatest Sinisto. What happened back then is not over yet. Hal and Sinisto were natural enemies. Hal felt that he was already taking the big picture into consideration, but he could not help but mock. No, calm down. Please take the big picture into consideration. Everything will be fine. Saint hurriedly came out to smooth things over. After fighting for 2 minutes, Attikitas was furious. Green light. You're blocking my view. I also want a green light. This sneaky person was Laffles. The 7 of them were in a mess. There was Hal Jordan and Sinisto going head-to-head, his emotional entanglement with Carlo Ferris, Attikitas's hatred of the Green Lantern Corps, Qing Nu and Saint trying to smooth things over, and occasionally laugh Liz wanting to steal a few rings. In short, no one would think of words like unity and friendship when they saw the scene of their battle. Can these guys do it? This thought automatically came to Diana's mind. She was anxious about the battle, but she still stood motionless by Thea's side to protect her. Thea was now exuding an ethereal green aura. It was the most basic green compassion. Her golden hair floated slowly, and the light between her hair would make even the sun jealous. It was yellow fear. One eye was red, representing anger, and the other eye was blue, representing hope. It was not difficult to reconcile the four emotions. After all, she had done many experiments in private. After checking it once, there were no problems. The emotions were stable. She first put on the green light of courage. This emotion was external, but to her, controlling a light ring was simply child's play. There was no need to chant those slogans, and there was no need to pledge loyalty to the Green Lantern Corps. Thea smoothly added an emotion. Chapter 850. Thea tried her best to ignore the difference between external emotions and her own when she took off the ring. She reached out and put on the orange light ring. The accumulation of emotions was not an addition but a multiplication. Every additional emotion was a burden on her spiritual power. Fortunately, she had mastered greed. With the help of the orange light ring, she quickly controlled this emotion. It was hard to imagine how Kyle Rayner did it. The young lady was speechless. She was now like playing dominoes. A small mistake could cause her to waste all her effort or even be seriously injured. After a long time, she opened her eyes. The light behind her could no longer be seen. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. 6 colors mixed together. It was indescribably strange. She still needed the last color. Purple love and red anger were the same. They were at the opposite ends of the emotional spectrum. It could be said that they were very extreme emotions. The Purple Lantern Corps' motto was that love represented everything. If there was love, then one could do anything. If the Purple Lantern fell in love with a criminal who committed murder and arson, then it was completely okay. This was also an expression of love in their eyes. Thea did not like this kind of extreme thinking. Otherwise, she would not have put the Purple Lantern of Love at the end. But as soon as she put on the purple light ring, she felt a huge disharmony. Thea hurriedly adjusted several emotions, trying to get the Purple Lantern to return to its original position. Unfortunately, the love was very resistant. Is it my own problem? She thought about it and felt that it was not. The light ring was a stupid device. It could be used as soon as she put it on, but it would be useless if she took it off. No matter what, she was still better than those purple lanterns. Even if there was no love at all, Thea felt that she could forcibly control it. Emotional energy was mysterious, but in essence, it was just a kind of energy. But now the Purple Lantern was completely ignoring her. It was like a rich young master who had prepared 81 brilliant plans and then went to ask a beautiful woman out for a meal. In the end, he found out that she was not there. Thea felt similar. The Purple Lantern did not give her a chance at all. Her tricks were useless. Is it a problem with the order? She hurriedly adjusted the focus of each lantern. Although she still used pity as the base, she arranged them according to the order of the emotional spectrum. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple were arranged in the order. After a long struggle, several emotions were faintly unstable. You should come in this time, right? In the end, he poured a bucket of cold water over her head. The purple lamp was still resisting. F***CK, what went wrong? Thea was sweating a little. What order had she missed? Could it only be Kyle Rayner? Impossible. She didn't believe it. Not enough. Earths. Not enough. A faint voice drifted into his ears. The spirit of existence? What are you talking about? Thea was so anxious that she was about to go to the bedroom. This person leisurely told her that it wasn't enough. Not enough, my ass. He carefully recalled the original space-time plot. What did he miss? Black hands had appeared in the world. Scarface had rebelled. Collect energy, yes. There were also ways to summon the Black Death Emperor. The first few steps were correct, but there was a problem later on. After the spirit of existence was born, Sinisto and Hal went through a lot of trouble before finally reviving Black Hand and cutting off the connection between the Black Death Emperor and the material world. None of this happened, But this was the final stage and had nothing to do with the current situation. Thea thought for a while and finally thought of a suspicious point. The spirit of existence was buried deep in Earth. In other words, as the manifestation of life emotions, the white lantern beast was formed from the emotions of Earth. If she didn't rely on the lantern beast and use the 7 emotions to form the white lantern, she would have to start from Earth. 7 emotions weren't enough. Those emotions came from space. Thea needed the 7 Earth emotions as a guide to finally form the white lantern. She didn't know if her guess was right. After greeting the few of them, the Martian Manhunter and the Martian Maiden replaced the 7 lanterns. What's the matter? Sinisto felt that he had the upper hand and was unhappy to be replaced at the last minute. Thea closed her eyes and maintained the 6 emotions. She whispered a few words to Gonda through the telepathic channel. Gant's face was bitter. You can still think of me when you're being scolded? You're so righteous. But the little blue man looked at the big picture. The people scolding them could circle half the universe. A few more wouldn't matter. Gantz carefully looked at the 7 of them, then snapped his fingers and uttered a word. Papa. 6 light sounds were heard. Except for Hal Jordan, a replica of the rings of the other 6 people appeared at the same time. The replicas floated in the air and flew in all directions. What's that? Atakaitas was furious and questioned Gonda. My ring, my ring. Lovelees couldn't hold it in this time. In less than 3 seconds, his shirt was wet. After Thea snatched one away, another one flew away. Thea was still pretending to be a psychic with her eyes closed, but she didn't let Gonda take the blame silently and explained for him. The Guardians left a loophole in the original manufacturing agreement of all the lantern rings. They can duplicate the current ring and choose a new owner. The 7 people looked at Gonda in unison. Gonda was speechless. You might as well not have explained. Once Lovelees heard that it was a replica, he looked much better. Thea continued, I need 6 people from Earth to provide emotions to help me deal with the big black guy. Hal looked around. Only his ring didn't change. Why am I not affected? Earth already has 4 green lanterns now. They have enough courage. Thea didn't finish her sentence. Courage was the foundation. This was also the main reason why Kyle Rayner could become a white lantern so easily. Because the small Earth had 4 green lanterns, and there would be 2 more in the future, which equal to 6. The Guardians stipulated that each sector had 2 green lanterns. This was a very scientific and strict judgment. It wasn't a blind guess. The various emotions involved could stand up to scrutiny. 1 or 2 green lanterns on a planet were more than enough to provide emotions. Technically, her yellow lanterns also had people on Earth. Unfortunately, the yellow lanterns had their own abilities. The lantern rings were like superphones to them. The secretary who wore the blue lantern was a homebody and didn't use her lantern rings often. To be safe, Thea let them go completely. It was just 6 temporary rings. The heroes were all on the battlefield. Purple, blue, and green chose quickly. The purple lantern slightly compared between Diana and Kara and finally made a choice. Diana glanced at Thea. Thea nodded at her. Only then did she put on the purple lantern ring. Intelligent life has been selected. Diana, Prince of Earth, you have deep love in your heart. Welcome to the Purple Lantern Corps. Intelligent life has been selected. Barry Allen of Earth, you have the ability to instill firm hope in others. Welcome to the Blue Lantern Corps. Intelligent life has been selected. Ray Palmer of Earth, you have an incomparably compassionate heart. Welcome to the Blue Lantern Corps. The Flash and the Atom on the other side also chose to accept. After they accepted, Thea instantly felt that the Purple Lantern of Love showed signs of integration. It wasn't easy to get such a result. The 3 relatively positive rings chose their wearers on the spot. The 3 less positive rings took a few minutes to choose their wearers. The Yellow Lantern of Fear still chose the Scarecrow. The Orange Lantern of Greed chose Lex Luthor. This guy was hiding in an underground base. The Orange Lantern didn't expect to drag him out by force. The 2 of them didn't surprise Thea. After all, the original Time Lantern ring also chose them. The Red Lantern's choice surprised everyone, including her. The Red Lantern chose a house cat. Chapter 851. Looking at the short-haired cat lying at his feet, Atakaitas was a little dazed, but more than that, he was angry. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? Don't laugh. Do you think I don't know that this is a small animal from your planet? This is so infuriating. The orange and yellow lights came back much earlier than the red lights. Atticaides had been looking forward to the stars and the moon, but he never thought that the red light would give him such a result. This cat was thin and small, weighing only 4 to 5 kilograms. It was now wearing the red light vest, but there were still some damages on its head and claws. Obviously, it had been abused before. Ha ha! The one who laughed so happily and didn't give anyone any face was Hal Jordan. Although he knew that the enemy was right in front of him, he still couldn't hold back. Atticaides had a fiery temper, and when he saw Hal Jordan holding his stomach and laughing beside him, he exploded on the spot. Not to mention Hal Jordan, who had never been serious and could even laugh and scold the Heavenly Father. The few people from Earth were a little stunned, and then they laughed. Even someone as steady as Diana laughed. Thea also couldn't help but laugh, but she could still distinguish the severity of the situation. She coughed twice and tried not to look like she was gloating. Atticaides, look at this cat carefully. It completely meets the standards of the red light core. The lantern ring was chosen correctly. She had already seen that this cat was originally very ordinary, but it had the red of all beings in its body. The red of all beings forcibly raised its life level, which was why it was finally chosen by the lantern ring. After all, it wasn't hard to find an emotion like anger, and there were rough men everywhere. Atticaides held back his anger and looked carefully. This cat looked weak, but in fact, it had an uncontrollable anger in its body. It could be said that it met the standards of the red light core. It had abundant and irresistible anger, but it also had a certain degree of restraint. It could be said that this cat was completely qualified to join the red light core. The red light core only required anger, and the stronger the anger, the better. If the standards were relaxed, the entire universe could recruit thousands of them in minutes. But Atticaides, as the leader of the red light core, couldn't make such a choice. He needed subordinates who could control their anger and listen to his orders, not a group of crazy idiots. This was the main reason why there were so few red light core. If he opened the recruitment, how many people in the universe with bad tempers couldn't be found? It was impossible. Atticaides was lying on the ground. Its big head and the cat looked at each other as if they were communicating. Hal Jordan wanted to kick his big butt several times, but he was stopped by Carol Ferris. I will accept it as an official member of the Red Light Squad after the war. Atticaides looked at Thea from the corner of his eyes. After all, this cat came from Earth. The eldest miss nodded slightly, indicating that she could do so. Diana has been with Thea for a long time. Although she has never worn the lantern ring, she has seen too many of them. She knows how to use it after a little thinking. The purple lantern ring was not a lantern beast that had lived for hundreds of millions of years like the ion shark. Its clothes did not change at all. Diana easily mastered this temporary purple lantern ring. On the other side, the Saint Walker was telling Barry about the Path of Hope. Ching Nu also briefly explained to Ataman how to use mercy. The scarecrow was quite well behaved. It was familiar with the use of the ring on its own. From time to time, it would conjure a few small birds that danced in the air. The only troublesome thing was the orange lamp. Baldy, don't even think about taking my lamp. Lawfleets held the charging lamp tightly. On the other side, Luther's eyes were shining. He was fighting with Lawfleets for the lamp. Do you know how to build a huge organization, country, or empire? You idiot, that ring is a waste to give it to you. Luther stepped on Lawfleet's face with one foot and pulled Lawfleet's fingers with both hands, trying to grab the authentic orange ring. What's going on? Everyone was surprised. Thea was still trying to communicate with the various colors of light. She could only spare a little of her attention to deal with this matter. She reached out and pointed in Luther's direction, throwing out a psychic shield. He is controlled by the greed in the orange lamp. However, Thea also knew that Luther was indeed difficult to deal with. He wanted too much. It was not unreasonable that the orange lamp chose him. Everyone from Earth, I don't need you to do anything for me. You just need to vent the emotions in the ring. Thea saw that they were ready and directly sent them to fight monsters. They just needed to vent the emotions. The purple lamp of love is the key. I'm stuck on the purple lamp now. Cast it as soon as possible. Thea said to Diana through telepathy. Diana handed the guard job to Kara and rushed out first. The mission was not difficult. As long as the emotions in the ring were used, the mission would be completed. She materialized as countless Amazon warriors, riding war horses and holding spears in their hands. They charged into the Black Lantern like a torrent. The others also made their moves. Among them, the Scarecrow was the most hard-working. He materialized countless birds and flew toward the Black Lanterns. Luther and the cat began to attack their surroundings reluctantly. After regaining his consciousness, Luther's high intelligence finally came into play. Other than Diana, he was the second person to use the orange lamp ring freely. All kinds of high-tech weapons were materialized one by one. Then, he seemed to have discovered the secret of the orange lamp ring's abundant energy. He no longer cared about the consumption of energy. An overwhelming mechanical army emerged from the ring and rushed toward the Black Lanterns like a tide. What Brainiac called Level 9 intelligence, Luther's logical thinking and vast knowledge combined with the orange-colored ring that was filled with an endless amount of energy. Their combination was simply terrifying. Compared to Lafla's one-wave attack style, the orange lamp ring's power was fully unleashed in Luther's hands. Countless orange lights filled the vision. Luther not only knew how to create them, but he could also control the Black Lanterns under his control to perform all kinds of exquisite coordination. For a moment, the millions of Black Lanterns were suppressed by him alone. Sure enough, the orange lamp and Luther were a perfect match. Thea thought to herself. Fortunately, fate had connected the orange lamp and Lafla's. If the orange lamp had chosen Luther as the first orange lamp ring, Black Death Monarch would not have been able to do anything today. On the other side, the cat was also unleashing its power. The Sattva Red seemed to be using it to vent its anger. Blood-red energy like magma was spat out from the cat's mouth. Even an elephant would not have so much HP, let alone a kitten. However, the cat did not hesitate at all. The hot red energy kept spitting out and defeated the Black Lanterns. Green Lamp Atomic Warrior Sia did not pay too much attention to it because Miss Secretary was there before. Earth had compassion emotions. It could be said that Green Lamp Courage, Yellow Lamp Fear, and Green Lamp Compassion. These three emotions were already present in the spirit of Earth's existence. She could integrate them smoothly. Chapter 852. Luther controlled all kinds of manifestations to fire wildly, and the greed that belonged to Earth smoothly returned to its place. Diana and the cat followed closely behind. Love and anger had reached a standard at the same time, and the six emotions had reached a perfect level. Now, only hope was still a little discordant, and this discordant was hindering her from integrating the power of the purple lamp of love. The spirit of existence transmitted a lot of joy to her. The 7 emotions in her body also showed signs of harmony. Brother Aaron, everything will be fine. The saint explained to Barry Aaron, who was wearing a blue tights. Barry's personality was very similar to the saint's. They were the so-called good people. He was very confused now. He pointed at Luther and the Scarecrow. Do I have to be like them? But I only know how to run. No, Brother Aaron, you are not good at running. The saint still said slowly. Barry was a little dumbfounded. What did he mean? I am not good at running. Are you good at it? You are good at giving people hope. This is your true ability. Barry was very happy. He had always been proud of this. What was strong was not the power of speed, but his perseverance in action. Now, the saint was more and more pleasing to the eye. The two of them were faintly filled with love. Thea, who was far away, was sweating. We are fighting. Don't talk about those empty words. Give us something real. In the telepathic communication, she said, Barry, you don't have to materialize. Run. When you run, you will bring hope to others. Use your heart to feel the people who need help. The emotion of hope will fuel your power of speed. Think about the joy you had when you helped others for the first time. Remember, it was the power of speed that chose you. That was not a coincidence. Barry ran a few steps suspiciously. Soon, he found a huge change. He could fly. The air was like the ordinary ground to him. He could run in the air. Many movements that were limited to the ground were now easy to do. He was like Hermes before, able to run freely in the air. Just like Thea said, he felt hope. There were people calling for hope everywhere. He felt that as long as he wanted, he could go to anyone. Hope seemed to have given him wings. Although he wanted to help everyone, he also knew that the situation was tense. He began to cooperate with the green light to eliminate the black light. Barry felt that he had never been this fast before. He was running in an abnormal flow of time. Everything around him had become still. This also allowed him to see the strength of the people on the battlefield. The Black Death Emperor and Thea were completely unaffected. One of them was absorbing the black lamp's energy, while the other was gathering the seven-colored light. Both of them had serious expressions on their faces as they prepared their ultimate moves. Diana, Scarface, and the seven nameless guardians were almost unaffected. Diana even gave him a strange look. Superman and the Martian hunter were greatly affected, but they could still move. They looked like they were in slow motion as they attacked the enemies around them. Excluding a few extreme speed users and Black Lamp Reverse Lightning who was hiding in the distance, the rest of the ordinary people had all entered a state of stillness. "Don't go, he's dangerous." Thea quickly stopped Barry when she saw him trying to ambush Black Death King. "Time is not absolute. Don't take the risk. Normal forces won't be able to defeat him. Let's help the Green Lanterns." Barry saw that Thea was speaking at a normal speed. He could also see that she was trying to prepare her ultimate move. He thought about it and ran back to attack the black light. In a world where time was relatively still, he was like a hard-working bee, constantly correcting the attack position of the Green Lanterns. He had to ensure that their green light would hit the black light ring. After that, he would fire a blue light. He kept running, correcting, shooting, and running. In everyone's eyes, he was working with the Green Lanterns to kill more than 2,000 black lights in an instant. Everyone unconsciously had a thought in their mind. "We can win, there's hope." A weak but tenacious light lit up in everyone's heart. The hope in their hearts was transmitted to the spirit of existence, and it was fed back to Thea. They had finally reached this step. The hope emotions were completely compatible and automatically moved out of position, allowing the purple lamp of love to be placed on Thea's finger. The four emotions in her body, the purple ring on her left hand, the green ring on her right hand, and the orange ring on her right, the seven colors of light began the final reconciliation. "Stop her!" Thea was so arrogant that the Black Death King was not blind. He hurriedly ordered his subordinates to attack. Now it was a race of time. Whoever completed the absorption first would win. Scarface was already fighting with all her might. Unfortunately, she could only use 20 to 30% of the combat power of the other little blue men. She was still beaten by Superman and the Martian Manhunter. Black Hand, who had been holding the bones of his family and smiling foolishly, suddenly woke up. As the first black light, he finally showed his ferocious fangs. Countless black lines emerged from the black light ring on his right hand. Those were sutures, specially made silk threads used on corpses. Countless black threads rushed towards Sia in a dense swarm. Diana came back in time. She was too lazy to use any instantiation. She took out the Vulcan sword and slashed at the black lines. On the other side, Hal Jordan and others were also attacking Black Hand. Unfortunately, the means that could make a normal black light go offline did not work on Black Hand. He was not a puppet. He had his own consciousness and thoughts. Even if 100 lights hit him, he would be fine. Black Hand's sutures trapped several Black Lanterns and superheroes. This kind of thread looked ordinary, but it was actually very tough. There were some barbs on the thread that were as thin as a cow's hair. After binding the body, the life force would be constantly depleted. Hal Jordan was entangled for less than 3 seconds. His face began to turn abnormally dark. Diana cut a few threads. Seeing that Hal was about to die, she hurriedly threw out a gem. The gem contained the firestorm that Thea had sealed. The black lines were restrained for a moment, but in less than 10 seconds, they came back again. Burn with fire. Using a sword was too inefficient. Diana could only cast a few fireballs. Magic was really not something she was good at. She could only call on the other heroes to help. The Kryptonians fought back with heat rays. Several heroes who could use fire, like the Revenge Demons of the Suicide Squad, the Firestorm, and the Inferno of the International Righteous Alliance, all attacked. But the most eye-catching one was Raven. Her face was covered by the hood, but 3 pairs of scarlet eyes could be seen in the shadow. The power of Raven's blood was fully activated. The big lowly shouted, and a magic raven flew out from the shadow behind her. Hellfire was mixed with evil magic. The raven wrapped the black lines and burned all the way to Black Hand. The bloodline of the 3 Palace Demon was not something that mortals could resist. Black Hand tried to use the black thread to bind the crows several times, but it was burned to pieces. The decaying and gray aura of death instead encouraged the shadow crows. The raven let out a low cry, passed through Black Hand's body, and flew toward the Black Death in the distance. Chapter 853. Black Death King hurriedly mobilized his subordinates to block Raven's attack. He was in perfect condition, and he could take it head-on with his origin weapon, but now. Unfortunately, these subordinates were all mortals, and they were burned to ashes like moths to a flame. Scarface chose to take Superman's punch head-on, and used the opportunity to mobilize the Guardians under his control to block Dark Raven. Puff, puff, puff. After passing through 3 Guardians in a row, the Shadow Raven's magic power was finally exhausted. Controlling such a terrifying amount of magic power was a huge mental burden. Raven Big lowly exited the Bloodline state and knelt on the ground, gasping for breath. The price for the Black Lanterns was that 3 Guardians were burned to ashes. 3 of his kind with eternal lifespan were burned to death, and they had lost their emotions. Scarface did not feel it was a pity. She was in great danger now. 1 was saved by Diana, and now another 3 were dead. She only had 4 little blue men under her control. Although her control would increase exponentially with fewer people, she did not have time to celebrate under Superman's fierce attacks. The battlefield was in a stalemate. The human army at the outermost area was rescuing the residents of the coastal city and attacking the Black Lanterns. The city was already filled with Black Lanterns. They blocked the attacks from the outskirts and focused their firepower on the city center. In the city center, the 7 Lantern Corps and the human superheroes were fighting to the death. At the center was Thea and Black Death King. Black Death King's black aura was mixed with some nothingness. It was the aura of the Anti-Watcher that destroyed the multiverse. It was strong and long, like an eternity. Unfortunately, this aura was strong enough, but it was not compatible with Black Death King. He could only borrow a small part of its power, and he would have to give it up later. But for victory, he did not care how to recover. He had all the time. On the opposite side of the black aura, the other side was as bright as day. Even an idiot would know that the 2 energies corresponded. The Black Lanterns and the heroes were fighting hard to hold on until dawn arrived. Originally, the white light was a little mixed, like a piece of white cloth with some scattered spots. As Sia tried her best to reconcile them, the spots slowly disappeared. Although there were still some mixed spots in the fine areas, there was no problem with the general direction. Death is not a disaster, but a friend of life. Growing old is not a bad thing, but a blessing. Thea could not help but express her own understanding. The Black Death Emperor, who had always been silent, finally had emotions. This was a battle of ideals. He loudly retorted, "Death is the end of life. It is the final destination of all life. There is no distinction between us. There is only eternal peace." That's not right. Death is the friend of life. Every life will encounter death twice in their lifetime. Once is birth, and once is death. He will wait for every life at the beginning and the end. You're talking nonsense. The 2 of them did not give way to each other. They each explained their own theories and began to debate. The Black Lantern was controlled by the Black Death Emperor. The Black Death Emperor was sometimes thinking and sometimes shouting, causing them to be a little absent-minded. The heroes were also dumbfounded. What was the meaning of this? Could they beat the enemy with their mouths? You should have said so earlier. Let's spray him to death. Of course, Thea did not have nothing to do. At first, she was thinking about something and did not control her mouth. Later, she found that the Black Death Emperor was anxious to debate with her, so she did not mind delaying a little. Compared to the Black Death Emperor who hid in his own space and pondered for hundreds of millions of years to comprehend a peaceful death, she had a broader view. No matter if it was Doomsday's destruction to death, or decaying Black's death to decay, or Romer's death, or Black Runner's death, they were all part of death. It was just that their understanding from their own perspectives was biased, but it could not be said that they were wrong. Now, many ideas were thrown out by Thea. She was not as pure as the Black Death Emperor, but she could disturb him. Let the Black Death Emperor ponder over the messy theories. She was afraid of the pure Black Death Emperor, not the mixed Black Death Emperor. While chatting, she accumulated power in her body. When the 7 emotions were finally reconciled, Thea felt a little regretful. After all, the 3 emotions were not her own. No matter how hard she tried, there was still a flaw. But this was enough. Light, countless lights came out from Thea's body. Diana and the others covered their faces. The light was too dazzling. It was not hot, but it was filled with endless vitality. The superheroes had been fighting for an entire night. They were exhausted and mentally exhausted. Some were even covered in wounds. But under the illumination of the white light, they were surprised to find that they had recovered to their best state. Ka ka ka. With 3 crisp sounds, the 3 rings on Thea's fingers were all shattered. What replaced them was a fluorescent snow-white ring that flew out from the ground and automatically put on her left hand. Thea Quinn from Earth. Destiny has been waiting for you for a long time. Everyone felt that a white light filled their vision, but it was not uncomfortable. It was like a friend next door whispering to them. It was warm, friendly, and made people want to get close to it. Even the orange lantern Laughless, whose heart was filled with desire, recalled memories from a long time ago. At that time, he was weak, helpless, ignorant, and didn't have an orange ring, nor did he have an army, but he was really happy. The red light's heart had long been occupied by the lamp ring. But from Attikitas down, everyone seemed to hear their own heartbeats again. The purple lamps walked out of their fanatical love. Love was not everything in life. Friendship and family were equally precious. On the battlefield, no matter heroes or villains, every intelligent life felt a long-lost peace. It was as if countless emotions were pouring into their hearts. It was as if countless people were helping them share their worries. Superman thought of his quarrel with Louise and smiled gently. This matter was very troublesome at the time, but now it seemed like a small matter. Dick thought of himself wavering between Barbara and Starfire. He was ready to make some things clear after the battle. More people had more things to do. They usually felt heavy, but now everyone seemed to have put down 1,000 pounds. The white lamp's light calmed everyone's hearts. They could not see a beam of light with a diameter of 100 meters shooting into the sky. It was as if a hole had been punched in the night sky. Countless fragments of light pierced through the clouds and returned, scattering the light on the ground again. After their vision returned to normal, they automatically looked at Thea. White boots, white gloves, a white shawl jacket and a gauze skirt. She did not wear a mask. The symbol on her chest was similar to the black lamp, but the concept was completely opposite. The black lamp was an inverted triangle with 5 fingers extending outwards. The white lamp also had an inverted triangle, but there was a vertical line among its 5 fingers, as if it was trying to retract something. She came out of the light a few seconds later. Her previous outfit was really unsightly. It was 100% skin tight. Although it was tightly covered and not a bit of flesh was exposed, she did not like it, mainly because it was too tight. Wearing it was almost the same as not wearing it. It was so tight that she almost suffocated. It would have been fine if the people present were all women, but the problem was that they were not. Fortunately, she had her own emotions as a foundation and did not completely rely on the lamp ring. The spirit of existence behind the white lamp had very little control over her. The 2 sides had a simple negotiation and made a compromise, resulting in her current outfit. As a result of the compromise, she had to honestly recite the oath of the white lamp. The spirit of existence had given in on her outfit, so she could not change the oath. Fortunately, there was no loss in reciting it once. There will be light in the white sun. Cleansing the soul is wrong. Darkness descends. Look up. New day descends. The light is immeasurable. Chapter 854. The spirit of existence is on my side. You've lost. You can't beat me. Thea floated in front of Black Death Emperor with an ethereal temperament. Her tone was calm, as if she was talking about something trivial. She was floating mainly because the slit of her dress was a little high. If she moved too much, her leg would be exposed. Even though she was covered in white light, those who were not afraid of strong light, such as Superman and Firestorm, could still see clearly. Black Death Emperor picked up his weapon and was about to hit her with his scythe, but then he remembered that the scythe was a ghost. The head of the scythe was gone. The thing in his hand was a stick. Thea almost laughed out loud. She did not use her soul power to stop him. She reached out and grabbed the long stick. The impact was easily dissolved, and the death aura on it was directly dispelled. See, you can't do anything to me anymore. The white lamp connected me to all the intelligent beings in the world, sharing everyone's life. How can you kill me? Not to mention, this origin weapon of yours. Hee hee. Sia chuckled as she pulled out a large sword. It was a holy sword. The white lamp was the lamp of life. It did not have a weapon in its standard equipment. As the host, she should not use a weapon. However, 4/7 of it was her own energy. The spirit of existence did not have much say, so she could use her holy sword without any pressure. It was originally a fantasy weapon made of light. Now that it was in her hands, it was like adding wings to a tiger. The 1-meter-long sword did not need to be driven at all. It emitted a 2-meter-long sword light. The purity of the energy was the strongest she had ever seen since she used the holy sword. She gathered all her emotions and slashed down with the sword. Black Death Emperor had no choice but to raise his stick to meet the attack. Now that his feet could leave the ground freely, Black Death Emperor began to diversify his attack methods. Thea could pull all the lives to share the damage, and he could also absorb the memories of all the dead. Among the dead for hundreds of millions of years, there were always a few who knew how to use a stick. He directly absorbed the memories as if he knew how to use it himself. Black Death Emperor raised his stick. Thea moved to the left. In the nick of time, a silver chain appeared in her left hand and wrapped around Black Death Emperor's right leg. Seeing that he couldn't break free, Black Death Emperor took a step back with his right leg, and the chain fell to the ground. At the same time, Thea sucked in her abdomen and spat out a large mouthful of black mist. Without saying a word, she retreated and slashed out a silver slash with her holy sword. The two of them used their own methods and probed each other with a few moves. The intensity of their attacks began to rise exponentially. Martial techniques were at the end of the spectrum. When sword and staff clashed, it was more of a contest of comprehension and what each represented. The 7 emotions converged to form a white lamp. It was a collection of the emotions of all living beings, containing countless contents. From time to time, Thea would add some thoughts about the meaning and value of life into the holy sword to disturb the Black Death Emperor. When a new life opens its eyes and sees the world for the first time, do you like it? Do you like the thrill of being promoted, getting a raise, and reaching the pinnacle of life? Do you like the satisfaction of being surrounded by your children, enjoying the rest of your life, and leaving this world with a smile? The Black Death Emperor responded with calmness. No matter what kind of emotion was thrown at him, the Black Death Emperor responded with calmness. Fanaticism. I am calm, sad. I continue to be calm. Thea felt that she was about to become mentally ill. Her emotions fluctuated between high and low. She acted out what it meant to gradually stabilize her emotions, and her smile slowly disappeared. Her borrowed emotions were still not as good as the Black Death Emperor. Fortunately, all the intelligent beings in the universe helped to share the burden, so the impact on her was almost negligible. The Black Death Emperor's realm was frighteningly high. Death was like the most basic instinct to him. His casual attacks were comparable to necromancy legendary spells. Thea estimated that if she did not have the white lamp ring and only relied on herself, she would have to run for her life after fighting for a minute. Now she was not afraid. Her 9,999 attack power was shared among everyone in the universe. Not even a strand of hair would be lost. Thea was calm. Victory would definitely be hers. After all, her attack power was not low. The Black Death Emperor was alone. He had to take all the damage by himself. No one helped him share the burden. It would be strange if he could win. The shock waves from their battle grew stronger and stronger. The aura of death invaded the world. Gradually, a pitch-black mountain appeared on the ground. There was no sign of life in the mountain. There was no cry, no sound of wind. It was like an eternal silence. On the other hand, the life force also brought some changes to the world. A winding river ran from north to south. The life force allowed the superheroes who had fought for a night to regain their strength. Even if they were heavily injured, they would be healed immediately by rubbing the river water on their wounds. At the end of the river, Thea and the Black Death Emperor were still fighting. The shock waves from their attacks entered the mountain and the river, changing the climate. "Save me!" A voice faintly reached Thea's ears. At first, she thought it was a spirit, but soon realized that it was not. The voice came from the black lamp. Thea suddenly realized that it was the Anti-Watcher. Thea had nothing better to do than to save him. She would leave the Anti-Watcher to Darkseid. Uncle Da had been eyeing his anti-life equation for a long time. Although she would not save him, she still took a look. Perhaps he wanted Thea to save him, but the Anti-Watcher allowed her to look at him without holding back. This guy is dead. Looking at the lifeless body of the Anti-Watcher with only a little bit of consciousness remaining in his body, this was Thea's first thought. It was not too surprising that the Black Death Emperor killed the Anti-Watcher. No matter how powerful the Anti-Watcher was, he was still alive. Without anyone to share the burden, and without any attributes that countered the Anti-Watcher, no matter how long his health bar was, it was useless. If he could not be killed in a day, he could be killed in a year. However, the Anti-Watcher's strength was also one of the best in the multiverse. Even the Black Death Emperor did not have a good time fighting back. This was also why Thea felt that the Black Death Emperor was much weaker than she thought. She dealt with the Black Death Emperor while looking at the Anti-Watcher openly. This was a rare opportunity, so she had to take a good look. Save me. Your energy can definitely save me. The Anti-Watcher was still pretending to be pitiful. As long as he could be revived, he would destroy a universe to recover his strength. He felt that the universe under his feet was not bad. Thea knew what he was thinking. Now that the large amount of life force covered her new god characteristics, and the Anti-Watcher was too weak, he could not see her level. Thea began to try to get information out of him. Who are you? Where did you come from? Where are you going? She asked a lot of questions. At the same time, she kept observing the Anti-Watcher. The Anti-Watcher was already dead, and he did not set up any concealment measures. It was clear at a glance. Thea pursed her lips more and more. This guy had directly risen from an ordinary person. If she was not wrong, this cheat was the anti-life equation, the source of the antimatter universe. Thea was not interested in such a destructive thing. She said a few perfunctory words about how she had to defeat the Black Death Emperor before saving him. Chapter 855. Anti-Supervisor was full of disdain. Who do you think you are to defeat Black Death Emperor? But he was already dead, and there was nothing he could do but wait. Thea exchanged 2 more blows with Black Death King. Suddenly, she felt a sharpness that could destroy everything, as if it could cut the earth apart, descend from the sky. Who is it? She hurriedly waved her sword to force Black Death Emperor back and looked up. She saw a blood-red sword slashing down from the sky, and the sword light contained unparalleled power. Thea was shocked. This kind of overbearing power seemed to be able to destroy the world with a wave of the hand. If she was not wrong, this was the power of God. Her gaze instantly crossed hundreds of miles and met Spectre's eyes. Spectre was also looking up, as if he was considering whether to attack. Thea was a little dizzy. It was not him? Then who was it? It's my predecessor. Spectre's words floated to her ears. Predecessor? Tianshi? That's Cynthia who had been corrupted. She looked at the sword pattern. It looked like a holy sword, but the blood-red pattern on the black sword was magnified hundreds of times, so she could not see it clearly. Everyone shared her pain, and she had to take the lead to do something. This kind of disaster that fell from the sky was the first to bear the brunt. Thea did not have time to think. She filled her holy sword with power and slashed at the sky. She did not know if it was Tianshi, Thea, or a combination of the two. She used all her strength in this attack. She was confident that even if Tianshi or Spectre personally came, she could stop them. However, the expected collision between Mars and Earth did not happen. Her sword hit empty air and flew out along the atmosphere. Meanwhile, her opponent's sword cleverly drew a half-circle in the air and slashed down at the Black Lantern's main energy source from afar. She wanted to revive Anti-Supervisor. Thea's attack missed, and it was too late for her to block it. The blood-red sword light slashed at Black Light's energy source. The surface was as smooth as a mirror. The lantern-like energy source was split to the left and right, and dust was kicked up with a rumble. A black shadow lay motionless inside. The sword light did not dissipate and smashed into the river of life. Not good. This river was formed by the aftermath of her attack mixed with seawater. It was meant to be used to heal the heroes present. It contained a huge amount of life force, but she did not expect it to be used by the enemy. She hurriedly raised her left hand. The white lamp was like a whale sucking in water, and the huge amount of life force was sucked back. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. The sword light smashed into the river water and sent it flying in all directions. A few drops of river water fell on the heads of some lucky people, and the Black Lantern Boomerang Captain was one of them. He was a little confused, not knowing why he had suddenly revived. The last thing he remembered was his head being chopped off by Death Knell. However, his skills were not bad and his ability to escape was top-notch. When he saw a bunch of black figures around him, he immediately ran away. There were people like him who were so lucky that they could be resurrected. Naturally, there were also those who actively sought survival. Their individual wills were strong, and even though they were being controlled by the Black Lanterns, they still had some sense of self. They all suppressed the Black Lantern's control and displayed their abilities to seize the water of resurrection. Among them, Reverse Lightning was the most eye-catching. He burst out with his fastest speed and flew past. Afraid that it was not safe, he drank 4 or 5 drops of river water. His body flashed with white light, and the Black Lanterns shattered. After that, he ran out of Seaside City without looking back. Nick Nacro was Constantine's guide. It was not an exaggeration to call him a young talent in the magic world. He raised his hand and cast a compound spell. He moved, repelled the Black Lanterns, absorbed the river water, revived, and teleported away. It was all done in one go. Felix Faust swapped himself with the Black Lantern at his original landing spot and was successfully revived. However, he was one step too late and was pinned to the ground by the Spellbreakers. "He's here." Zatara, who was good at irony, also suppressed the Black Lantern's control, absorbed a few drops, and completed his revival. If the above were all small fries and not worth much attention, then the biggest splash of water caused by the sword light was flying uncontrollably towards the anti-watchers. It was very eye-catching. Thea and the Black Death King attacked at the same time, trying to stop it. The brilliance of the Holy Sword and the Death Aura hit a mirror as thin as a cicada's wing at the same time. The mirror was like a big mouth, chewing and swallowing their attacks. Although it exploded into ashes in less than 2 seconds, the anti-watchers were revived in these 2 seconds. The 5-meter-tall giant had high-tech energy armor. There were 6 broken energy pipes from the back of his neck to his back. The Black Death King must have relied on these things to absorb the anti-watchers' energy to power the Black Lanterns. Even though the anti-watchers had been revived, they were still in bad shape. They wore a funny helmet on their heads, and their right leg was broken at the knee. There were many wounds all over their body, and blood was still gushing out of the broken arms and legs. The external injuries were very serious, and a large amount of internal energy had been sucked away. The River of Life, which could bring ordinary people back to life and restore them to their best condition, was just a drop of blood to him. Now any Tom, Dick, or Harry could kill him again. He was also very practical. As soon as Thea raised her sword, he teleported away and went to another universe. Damn, he ran so fast. Thea had 3 choices now. Chase after the one-drop anti-watchers, join forces with the ghost to deal with the Dark Thea, or continue to PK with the Black Death King. She rejected the first choice. The anti-watchers ran away without a sound, and she did not have the coordinates to chase after them. She did not dare to chase after the Dark Thea. The eclipse was not a joke. If they were in this time and space, she would not be afraid at all. With the power of all intelligent life, she could even fight against the vengeful spirit of God. But the opponent was smart. He attacked across worlds and ran away. She did not dare to chase after him. The Blank Lantern would not be of any help in the parallel universe. There was no place to charge it, and the lantern ring would run out of energy. She was still a little bit away from the level of God's Smuff. The Holy Sword tapped the Black Death King lightly. The troublemaker ran away. "Brother, let's continue fighting." The Black Death King looked around. The attacks of the Black Lanterns had increased by 30%, but he was not happy at all. Because the total energy source was destroyed, the Black Lanterns in the universe needed him to provide energy. Countless death energy was being extracted by the Black Lanterns and turned into energy for the lantern rings. There were 3.9 billion lantern rings, and less than 10 million of them were offline. How could he hold on with this number left? There was nothing to say. Let's run. As the incarnation of death, he did not lack time. The Black Death King definitely did not learn the Stanislavski theory. He did not hide his intention to run. No matter how stupid Thea was, she would not let him run away. Countless white lights appeared at the tip of the sword. Like a ball of dense silk, they wrapped around the Black Death King. The white lights were so dense that there would definitely be accidental injuries. It could pass through normal people, but if it passed through a Black Lantern, they would die. Chapter 856. The white light wrapped around the Black Death Emperor's left foot, and his retreating movement slowed down. Thea took the opportunity to fill her sword with emotion and slashed at the back of his heart. With a puff, an unbearable stench spread in the air. The young lady, who was a bit of a clean freak, endured it and stirred the holy sword in his body again. "You can't kill me." The Black Death Emperor seemed to be explaining something very normal. His body shattered into dust, but in less than a second, his aura reappeared on a Black Lantern. His body stretched, holding a long stick in his hand. He was still as skinny and bony as before. Could he freely switch between all the Black Lanterns? The Black Death Emperor was not a living being, but more like a collection of consciousness. Conventional methods did not seem to work. Thea did not know whether to fight a war of attrition or not. The first to collapse would definitely be the elderly and children. She was a bit hesitant. The Black Death Emperor set up a barrier in front of him and turned to leave this world. This was the time to show the value of a hero. Hal Jordan was covered in green light and crashed into the Black Death Emperor. Hal, no. Carol Ferris knew that the Black Death Emperor was covered in death aura. She shouted and rushed over to help. The Black Death Emperor, who was about to take a step forward, was knocked back. His barrier was used to defend against Thea. He did not know that there was such a stupid person beside him who dared to crash into him with her body. Was her brain made of water? The green light shattered, and the death aura spread from the shoulder to the neck to the face. Hal Jordan's life was about to end in less than a second. The young lady was very reliable. She put down her worries and helped Hal disperse the death aura before turning to fight the Black Death Emperor. The two continued to fight. Every second the Black Death Emperor lasted, he lost a lot of death aura. He had to give up part of the Black Lantern rings. All the Black Lanterns in the universe suddenly paused for a second, and then some of the rings left the host and flew away. This made many intelligent planets feel relieved. Thea was very sensitive to death aura. Of course, she saw this change, but she could not stop the Black Death Emperor from increasing his supply. The gratitude of all intelligent life in the universe turned into countless prayers that filled the scales of order, and Thea could not stop it. Black Death Emperor's only thought was to run. He absorbed the Black Mountain from before and continuously logged off Black Lantern to maintain himself. Thea no longer took the initiative to attack. Instead, she used more defensive methods to reduce consumption. At the same time, she had the heroes attack with all their might. The death aura was completely connected, but the Black Lantern and the Black Death Emperor's defense was on a completely different level. The Black Lantern that the heroes destroyed was actually a part of the Black Death Emperor. Once this part of the death aura was destroyed, it was gone. The situation heated up. Gonda recalled all the green lights left behind on Odium and the scattered green lights all over the universe. Everyone raced against time to destroy the Black Lanterns. Thea also used her ultimate skills from time to time, causing white light to scatter in all directions like rain. She controlled it very well. The white light could only kill the enemy and destroy the death aura, but it could not resurrect them. You can't run. Another slash landed on the Black Death Emperor's shoulder. With a sizzling sound, one of his arms was wiped clean by the death aura. However, he took the opportunity to open a passage behind him and jumped in without looking. Thea thought for 2 seconds. She did not know how long the White Lantern ring would last in there. In the end, she decided to chase after it because she realized that the passage that the Black Death Emperor had opened was actually a time passage. At the end of time there was the Time Master Council, and at the beginning of time there was the Endless Family. What was she afraid of? Although time was not her home ground, she still had people inside. The moment she entered the time passage, the White Lantern ring's energy became 99%. Thea did not mind. Time was fair to everyone and everything. Father Darkseid and the others were far away from time because of this fairness. If too strong a power entered time, it would be weakened like a dog. Previously, she could only enter with a clone. Now, she had to rely on her identity as a death reserve to get out of this predicament. Thea did not think that the Black Death Emperor would be in such a situation. If he could not win, he could just run. This is a time passage. I'll go after him. With that, she rushed in. She was reminded in advance that she could not be blamed if any superhero insisted on going in. The River of Time was as vast as ever, and there were all kinds of strange things. The originally long, wide, and tall three-dimensional world had a new kind of change here. Space was like a frame, and in her eyes, it was all stagnant. This was a dimension piled up by countless three-dimensional worlds, and many three-dimensional projections appeared in front of her. Thea's eyes pierced through time and soon found the Black Death Emperor. He was not far away. You're chasing death, new god. The Black Death Emperor saw the white light on her body start to fade, and there was a hint of smugness in his voice. What are you bragging about? Thea also saw that the opponent's aura was less than 1/5 of what it was at the beginning. What was there to be afraid of when a big account with no weapons, no HP, and no mana? As expected, the Black Death Emperor did not fight back. Instead, he ran with the flow of time and occasionally jumped into time to hide. One ran and the other chased. Time was advancing and retreating around them. 1 second they were in the Middle Ages and the next second they were in the 30th century. On the way, they met extreme speed and Miss Ballistic. Thea waved at them, indicating that this was a big boss, and that they should go back and rest. They kept jumping through time, sometimes fighting, sometimes running. Time weakened the Black Death Emperor very little, so little that it was almost non-existent. Thea was even more afraid of his death, and did not stop to rest. She wanted to see who would be the first to give up. "Hey, Thea, I'm here." When they quickly passed through a certain time segment, Thea seemed to hear someone calling out to her from below. But how was that possible? Her dynamic vision was unparalleled. Even if it was just a quick glance, she could still restore the person's appearance in her mind. He was bare-chested, wearing cloth pants, and had a face full of beard. He seemed to be on a ship. Who was this person? She thought for a long time and suddenly thought of someone. Damn, that was Bruce Wayne. This guy wore a mask every day. If it was not for that highly recognizable square chin, it would not have been so easy to recognize him. She continued to chase the Black Death Emperor, but she sent a message to the Golden Vanguard, telling them to bring Master Bruce back to the vanishing point first. Stop right there. Thea shot out 2 rays from her eyes. Ever since she killed the god of hunger, her rays had become even more powerful. They were probably 40 to 50% of the power of the Omega Ray now. She could not kill the Black Death Emperor. She could not do it, and neither could Darkseid, but she could stop the enemy for a while. The Black Death Emperor did not use his body to block the attack. He ran 2 steps to the left and found that the ray could track him. Helpless, he used the shackles on his left wrist to smash the ray away. Chapter 857. Thea had already noticed that the shackles were extraordinary. It seemed that someone had imprisoned the Black Death Emperor before. She had never seen the material of the shackles before. It was not any metal, fantasy material, or magic material, but it was extremely powerful. Any elemental energy that hit the shackles did not cause any effect. The young lady was very envious, but unfortunately, it was useless even if she cut off the Black Death Emperor's left arm. The arm automatically regenerated in the next second, and the shackles were still on it. This was even more advanced than his original weapon, the scythe. After knocking away the tracking beam, the Black Death Emperor did not even have time to celebrate before he heard a loud boom. A giant beam of light from outside the time directly hit the Black Death Emperor. The beam of light was filled with a violent and destructive aura, as if a universe was roaring. The time it passed by was shattered, and all kinds of colorful fragments scattered into the long river of time. Antimatter cannon? Thea did not have time to think about the trouble that would follow. She jumped back 2 timelines. She could not be mistaken about such a powerful antimatter cannon. Did the Anti-Watcher shoot the Black Death Emperor from outside the time? She wanted to leave the timeline, but seeing that the Black Death Emperor did not respond and was floating away along the long river of time, she hesitated and decided to seal the Black Death Emperor first. It was normal for the Anti-Watcher to shoot the Black Death Emperor. A multiverse level being trapped in the main energy source of the Black Lamp like a battery was unbearable. It was reasonable for the Anti-Watcher to take revenge. It would be abnormal if he did not take revenge. After all, the Anti-Watcher was a big shot who had destroyed countless parallel universes. However, he had a grudge against the Black Death Emperor, so Thea was not sure what his attitude towards her would be. After following the Black Death Emperor for more than 10 minutes in the long river of time, Thea saw that the Anti-Watcher had stopped and did not do anything else. Only then did she let down her guard. Was it because the guy was too heavily injured? He fainted after a single shot? That was the only explanation she could come up with. Many years later, she found out how much the Anti-Supervisor hated the Black Death Emperor. He did not care that he was almost out of health and forced himself to cross time and space to fire a shot at the Black Death Emperor. After that, the cannon exploded and the Anti-Supervisor fainted. At this time, Thea fished the Black Death Emperor out of the river of time. It could destroy a parallel universe in one shot. The power of the antimatter cannon was reflected in the Black Death Emperor. The Black Death Emperor was completely unconscious. There was a burning hole in his chest, and even his body could not heal it. One had to know that the Black Death Emperor was not a living being. He was some kind of conceptual existence. Flesh, blood, and bones were all external manifestations to him. If intelligent life forms were all humans, then he was a human. If they were all fish, then he was a fish. Ordinary life forms had nothing to do with him. Even so, he was still knocked unconscious. To be able to knock out a concept, the antimatter cannon's sharpness was evident. Hand it over. Thea didn't say anything. She seized the rod from the Black Death Emperor's hand and put it on the head of the scythe. She didn't know if it would work. She then looked at the shackles on his wrists and neck. They couldn't be removed, at least she couldn't. Even if she forced a trade, Thea could only give up. Thea had taken the soul-sealing chains from the Heavenly Father's treasury when she was building the magic net. It was said that it had once tied up an ancient black dragon. She had originally planned to deal with Darkseid, but now she had to tie up the Black Death Emperor first. 4 light mirrors were attached to his limbs, constantly whittling away his aura of death. She then threw a bunch of random things into the hole in the Black Death Emperor's chest like sand. There were 4 emotions. The black of decay, the green of all things, the red of all life, the cells of the doomsday, and so on. Finally, he took out a coffin. This was one of the treasures in Hades's treasury. It was the huge ship that the Egyptian main god, the sun god, had taken to the underworld. Later, it was left in the hands of Osiris, and then changed into a coffin in the hands of Hades. Finally, it was passed to the young lady. She tied the Black Death Emperor up like a dumpling and threw him into the sun god's coffin. Decadent music was naturally indispensable. She added a bit of divine power to the echo stone of the underworld and set it to play on a loop. It could last for 3,000 years. She took out Eagleman's hammer and Apollo's arrow. After a series of smashes, Thea nailed the coffin tightly. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. This guy wouldn't be able to escape for 1,000 years if no one came to rescue him. She checked the Black Death Emperor's ranking. The result was gratifying. This guy had fallen to 210, and with the corrosion of the antimatter energy and the various things she added, his ranking continued to drop. It was only a matter of time before he and Uncle Da fell to the 300th rank. After sealing it, where to put the coffin became a problem. The starting point of time was eliminated immediately. She couldn't let the Black Death Emperor know about the Endless Family. The disappearing point of time was also not suitable for a bunch of weaklings. Even the entire timeline wasn't suitable. A parallel universe wasn't good either. Who knew when someone would come to rescue him? Actually, it was best to throw him into heaven. However, Thea didn't have any relationship with the angels. She suspected that the shackles on the Black Death Emperor's wrists and neck came from heaven. Only the archangels who also used the light of life, Michael, and Lucifer who had the power of creation, had the ability to take down the Black Death Emperor at his peak. In the end, she placed the coffin in Old Shazan's Stone of Eternity. Ordinary people couldn't come here, and those who weren't ordinary wouldn't come here either. It was a relatively safe place. Seeing that the cleanup work was done, she set up a few triggering alarms. It was better to be safe than sorry. Even if someone came in and tried to open the seal, she would be prepared. After that, Thea teleported to the disappearing point. Hi! Wearing a blanket, Bruce looked like he was rescued after a shipwreck. Seeing her come in, he greeted her with a normal expression. Golden Vanguard was checking various data on the other side and shook his head at Thea. What's wrong? What's wrong with me? Bruce's voice was a little hoarse. Thea didn't say anything. She picked up the report and looked at it. Then, she stared at Bruce and looked at it twice. She signaled for Golden Vanguard to explain. The Golden Vanguard recounted everything that had happened since he went missing. I messed up the timeline? If I go back, I'll... To be honest, when he saw Thea, Bruce was very happy. He didn't know how long he had been drifting in the timeline, but Golden Vanguard didn't bring him back to Gotham. Instead, it brought him to this strange place. As smart as he was, he already had a hunch. All right, I should pay for my recklessness. Killing me will solve everything, right? His expression was still calm, as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. Not really. You're our comrade. The Justice League won't give up on you. Here, take this. Thea said as she passed Black Death Emperor's staff to him. Batman looked at the staff in his hand. What was this? It was black and cold to the touch, as if his blood and bones were frozen. Chapter 858. Seeing that Bruce only frowned slightly, Sia thought to herself that it was just as she had expected. Ordinary people would not be able to touch the Black Death Emperor's origin weapon. After all, the weapon and the body were completely similar in nature to a certain extent. Batman still had the Omega effect in his body. Although it was not much, once he returned to the real world, he could still blow up half the universe. She pointed at the staff. The energy in this will neutralize the Omega effect. Originally, Thea wanted to use her own divine power to cleanse the death aura. Now that there was a strong labor force, it saved her a lot of trouble. I just have to hold it like this? Bruce felt that she was hiding some information. At least, she did not tell him everything. If you want to be faster, you can swing it like a staff. The faster your stamina is depleted, the faster the Omega effect will dissipate. Hearing that it was so simple, Bruce put aside his doubts and was happy. At least he did not have to die. As a martial arts master, Bruce knew 127 types of martial arts. If he could teach Nightwing the short staff, he naturally knew the long staff as well. He did not swing the staff like an idiot. Instead, he started to practice Wulong Bagua staff, Yaksha staff, and Antiochus Knight staff techniques. Batman knew a lot of things. Thea had nothing to do, so she suppressed her strength and sparred with him twice. Finally, after half a day, just as Bruce was getting excited, a gust of death aura exploded. It flowed along his palm and arm and rushed towards his heart. Let go! Thea snatched the long staff away. At the same time, she used the white light to disperse the death aura. She checked again. Okay, the Omega effect has been eliminated. Your body is back to normal. After dealing with the big problem, it was time to go back. Bruce knew that this Golden Vanguard was an older version. It was slightly different from the one he knew. He also heard about the chaos in Gotham, the battle for the cloak, and the Night of Darkness. He wanted to go back to help. Thea thought for a while. You can only go back to my point in time. It's impossible to go back to when you disappeared because that timeline has been solidified. Who solidified it? Bruce didn't quite understand. By me, because I've experienced all those things before. If your power doesn't surpass mine, you won't be able to change those things. At any rate, it's very complicated. Thea almost fainted at the end. Knowing that he couldn't stop these things from happening, Bruce still felt a little down. Thea gave him an example. Look at the Golden Vanguard. He can only appear in my timeline for 3 seconds at most before he's squeezed out. This is because there's another Golden Vanguard in my timeline. If you want to go back to the time before the incident, you'll also face the same problem. Although there won't be two Bruce, I've experienced those things. For you, it's already happened and can't be changed. Even if there's no road ahead, the road I've walked is the road. No one can change it. Thea bragged a little. Even she felt that she was great. Bruce looked at her carefully for a long time. He didn't understand but felt that she was awesome. The Omega effect was dispelled. Thea brought Bruce back to Gotham. The Night of Darkness was over. All the black lights were switched off and the sun rose again. However, it would take a long time to calm the chaos. Seeing that Bruce had returned, the old butler Fu was so excited that he almost jumped up. Sia hurriedly comforted the old man, hoping that nothing bad would happen to him. Even if he was revived by the white lamp, he would still have to pay the price. The old butler thanked her profusely. Not long after a night of fighting, Dick Grayson, Damian, and Catwoman all ran out. Bruce hugged one, then another. Thea saw that there was nothing for her to do and politely left. As for who would be Batman in the future, they could discuss it among themselves. As soon as he entered the house, he saw Oliver sitting on the sofa. Diana was chatting with him while holding a cup of coffee. After briefly talking about the follow-up of Black Death Emperor, they got to the point. Can that white light still be used? Oliver asked anxiously. Diana also listened attentively. I know what you mean. Old Robert, right? I also want to revive him, but unfortunately, it's not that easy. The revived person's life is not complete. This kind of revival is more like a loan. You borrow life force from the origin of life to revive yourself. After that, you have to work like a horse to repay the debt. Oliver felt that he didn't quite understand. That's it? It didn't seem like there was much of a burden between the lines. Diana understood. What Sia means is that the resurrected people will do a lot of things according to their will, whether right or wrong, at least against their will. The origin of life doesn't have our view of good and evil. It only wants things that are beneficial to it. That's right. The origin of life you're talking about has a weird name. It has a name. It's called the spirit of existence. It can order the revived person to do anything. Thea added. Life and death are relative. These powers shouldn't be abused, especially for us. If our loved ones are revived, what will the other superheroes think? Will their loved ones be revived too? Superman's adoptive father, Barry's mother, Neptune's father, and Hal's father. Will they all be revived? What about ordinary people's loved ones? The room fell into silence. You're right. I was too naive. Oliver looked depressed. After sending Oliver away, Thea changed into her home clothes and lay in Diana's arms, enjoying a rare moment of peace. Gently stroking her golden hair, Diana felt that she had something to say, but she didn't know where to start. Thea was very sensitive. She looked up slightly. Something to say? Is it about the revival? No, I just feel that you seem to have gone too deep into those dark positions of the gods. This seems like... The Valkyrie hesitated. She was very careful with her words. Thea smiled. Like I said in the battle, death isn't bad luck or a curse. It's a blessing. Everything will welcome death. Even the gods and the world will die one day. Death is life's friend. That's my philosophy. Live with a smile and die with a smile. Perhaps that's what I can bring to this world. Diana frowned slightly. The conversation had gone off track from the start. But Black Death Emperor wants to destroy us. Although I don't know how he's going to do it, but... Before she could finish, Thea sat up abruptly. She looked stunned. You don't know what Black Death Emperor wants to do? You don't know? Diana didn't know anything. She fought the whole night in a daze. Thea was also dumbfounded. She thought that everyone knew, but no one knew. Black Death Emperor lost unjustly. Actually, you should have felt it. Our Earth is the center of the universe. It was first born from a ray of light. When this ray of light came into contact with a physical body, it gave birth to the spirit of existence. Oh right. When we fought for the scythe, Black Death Emperor didn't move because he wanted to pull out the spirit of existence. Chapter 859. Diana hugged the pillow as if she was listening to a story and signaled for her to continue. This being spirit is connected to all life. Without a host, it's very weak. If the Black Death Emperor kills it, then all life will die, including us. That's his plan. That's what he planned, and that's what he did. Thea finally realized the problem. In this space-time, because of her interference, no one saw the being's spirit. A few with good eyesight might have seen the white light under the Black Death Emperor's feet. What was that? No idea. A bunch of people fought for an entire night without knowing the cause or the result. The only people who really understood were her and the Black Death Emperor. Even Scarface and the others didn't know how the Black Death Emperor was going to destroy life. Diana's clear eyes widened. Is there such a huge meaning in us fighting over the scythe? Of course, what did you think? I thought you saw how powerful the scythe was. So, Sia blushed. Not to mention at that time, she was thinking the same thing now, but she couldn't admit it. She pretended to be angry. How dare you accuse me? I won't do it again. Take out the truth lasso. I want to hear the truth. Diana hurriedly passed the lasso to her. The young mistress tied the Valkyrie up tightly, but her posture was a little suggestive. As if she knew what she was going to do, Diana was a little embarrassed. No, what if the Righteous Alliance comes looking for us? There's so much going on outside. Let's do it at night. It's okay. The Righteous Alliance has so many people. They don't need the two of us. I'm going to teach you a lesson today. Sia licked her earlobe, from her ear to her smooth chin, and up to her delicate red lips. The tip of her tongue teased her wantonly, and then she raised two fingers that were as white as jade. You dare to say that I'm deep? Today, I'll show you how deep I am. Tied up tightly, Diana could only beg for mercy. It's too deep. Don't. Knowing that her lover was still on the path of justice, Diana let go of her worries. The two interacted for a while. In the first half, the young mistress had the upper hand and could be said to be majestic. In the second half, the Valkyrie showed her strength. She was instantly defeated and bullied. How dare you say that I've gone astray? You're the one who's been corrupted. What's this? How dare you forge this kind of quasi-artifact? So what if you can forge it? Sia raised the shackles on her wrists and questioned loudly. Diana has never been gentle and virtuous. Now that she has been in the human society for so many years, she is experienced, has the lasso of truth and many indescribable semi-divine weapons. Dealing with Thea proves that she knows how to forge and has all kinds of rare materials at hand. She can really do whatever she wants. After fooling around for a whole day, their faces were still red when they went to the Zhonglian Club for a meeting the next day. As soon as Diana entered, she saw Bruce wearing Batman's vest and sitting on a chair. She was so surprised that she almost cried out. She finally remembered that there were still a few people who didn't know his true identity, so she held it in. Bruce was also stunned. He curiously glanced at the two goddesses. What was the meaning of their expressions? As if they had seen a ghost. My return is such a big matter. Why didn't you tell each other about it? You're so good at keeping secrets. Diana is smart. She glanced at Thea, meaning, why didn't you tell me about this? Sia smiled bitterly. She had really forgotten about it. Their interaction had been so intense. Who would remember this? After a few simple words about the Bat team, Dick Grayson was glad that Bruce had returned. He should continue to carry the heavy burden of Batman. He happily took off his vest and went back to be his own Nightwing. There were naturally changes. Tim continued to be his own Red Robin, and even wanted to form his own hero team. He was unwilling to return to Batman's side. Now, Bruce could only team up with his own son, Damian. Whether it was the first, second or third generation, every generation of Robins seemed to want to leave his side. This was really interesting. The people from the Zhonglian Club arrived one after another, all of them sweating profusely. It was obvious how complicated the aftermath of Night of Darkness was. Superheroes were known for their sharp eyes. Batman's chin feature was so obvious that everyone could see it when he appeared again. However, no one said anything. Only Superman nodded. Yo, your Green Lantern changed again? Thea was slightly stunned when she saw Kyle Rayner enter. Kyle Rayner, the artistic and emotional Green Lantern who could become a White Lantern, was still a young and inexperienced lad. He was very cautious in his answer to Sia, a super beauty who was known to everyone. The people from the Zhonglian Club didn't interrupt their conversation. To Thea, Green Lantern was no secret. However, to the other superheroes, the Green Lantern Corps was extremely mysterious. They naturally pricked up their ears to listen to the inside story. Actually, there wasn't any inside story. Thea understood after hearing a few words. After Black Death King retreated and Black Lantern went offline, Scarface couldn't do anything alone and was captured by the superheroes. The four Guardians also successfully escaped. It didn't take much information from the universe to know that the Green Lantern Corps had suffered heavy casualties in this battle. There was a shortage of manpower everywhere. They definitely couldn't leave 4 Green Lanterns on Earth to play mahjong. The Guardians left the rookie Kyle Rayner and transferred all the experienced ones away. Guy Gardner returned to the main planet to train soldiers. John Stewart went to Sector 1313 to be stationed on planet Zonshur. What about Hal Jordan? Thea asked, somewhat puzzled. The Flash and Green Arrow, who had a good relationship with Hal, also looked over. Kyle Rayner was embarrassed. He was stripped of his ring by the Guardians. He's now an ordinary person. Noticing the uneasy expressions on their faces, Kyle Rayner, who was once an artist, knew how to conduct himself better than John Stewart. He quickly explained the situation. The truth was disgusting. The Green Lantern Corps had suffered heavy losses this time. Just the Guardians alone had died, one was missing, and more than half of the 7,200 Green Lanterns had died in battle. Therefore, someone had to bear the responsibility or intimidate the remaining people. The 4 little blue men targeted Hal Jordan. Their reasons were reasonable. Black Death King's appearance on Earth must have something to do with Earth. Guy Gardner's prestige wasn't enough to be this chicken. John Stewart had been following the Guardians closely. Kyle Rayner had been a Green Lantern for more than 2 days. The most suitable candidate was Hal Jordan. During the internal meeting, the Guardians stripped Hal of his ring in public with a groundless accusation. They fired him without giving him a chance to explain. There weren't many fools among the superheroes. Kyle Rayner had said it very straightforwardly. The few of them were very unhappy. Although they were unhappy, the heroes couldn't interfere with the internal affairs of the Green Lantern Corps. As for comforting Hal Jordan, the few of them felt that it was unnecessary. This guy had nerves as thick as steel. He might be having a one-night stand somewhere right now. Chapter 860. We'll have to trouble you with Central City's seal. The people from Earth 2 have already retreated, the Flash said. Thea agreed without hesitation. Superman held back and asked, "Can that white light revive the dead?" He was not the only one. The Flash and the Sea King looked over as well. They all had deceased relatives. Thea could only repeat what she had said to Oliver. On a practical level, there were many hidden dangers. On a moral level, one's ability should not be abused. This could not even be opened. Once it was opened, the world would be in chaos. Besides, the white light isn't completely under my control. Forcefully controlling it will lead to more bad consequences, Thea said honestly. The white light was useful when used passively, but it was too difficult to take the initiative. I understand. You're right. The dead should die. Their mission is over. We shouldn't revive them. Superman made a statement at the end. It was both for everyone and for himself. But what about those who have been revived? What about them? Do they still have their nature? Do we need to monitor them first? The Sea King suddenly thought of a question. Who has been revived? Thea was busy talking. She had been fighting the Black Death Emperor all this while. Apart from counter-surveillance, she only knew that Felix Faust had been captured by the Spellbreakers after his revival. She only knew this because her subordinates had reported it to her. She did not pay much attention to the rest. Click, click. The screen lit up with pictures. Although Batman had just returned to the team, he had clearly done a lot of homework. He did not show any signs of unfamiliarity and was still working as the team's brain. Even though she had a good relationship with Nightwing, Thea still felt that Bruce was 100 times better than him. Captain Boomerang, Nick Nacro, Felix Faust, Giovanni Zatara, Defying Lightning, Boston Brand, and these two winged extraterrestrials. Thea looked at the Eagle Knight and Eagle Girl on the screen. Her gaze was a little dazed. Were these two also on the battlefield? Did they fly over from the main planet of Purple Lantern? She really did not see them. They're not aliens. This man is Khufu, the Khufu from the Egyptian pyramid. This woman is the priestess of that time, Chayara. They died on an extraterrestrial planet, but they were Earthlings through and through. In addition, Boston Brand is different from them, very different. Thea had an expression that said, "I'm not pretending, but you're giving me this opportunity." Perhaps you can't tell, but in my eyes, even through the screen, I can see that Boston Brand's resurrection method is completely different from the others. The pure aura of life and the aura of death are acting on his body at the same time. His originally strange life form is now even stranger. Those people were resurrected by absorbing the aftermath of the White Lamp's attack. It's not too complicated, but Boston Brand was resurrected by the spirit of existence. To be honest, I don't really understand it anymore. Thea hugged her elbows and studied it for a long time, expressing her confusion. It didn't seem like a living person, but it didn't seem right to call him a dead person either. Well, I think I came out with him, The Atom Man asked bitterly. Thea turned around and looked at him, shaking her head and nodding her head. She didn't give up until Atom Man's face turned pale. You're fine. It's just that the life aura is making you abnormally excited. You won't be able to sleep for a week. Speaking of which, how did you enter the Black Death King's body? The Atom Man told her all about his adventures with the Dead Man. Thea could only admire their great adventure. The Black Death King's body was rotten, which indirectly meant that he didn't come to Earth in his prime. Keep a close eye. Seeing that they didn't come to a conclusion, Batman made a concluding speech. Thea, Diana, and Superman smiled bitterly at each other. As expected, the familiar Batman was back. After the war, there were a lot of things to deal with. Although the white lamps in Seaside City dispelled the aura of death, after the black lamps went offline, there were corpses everywhere that needed to be dealt with. This job could only be left to Miss Thea. After all, this job required the coordination of various parties. Superheroes couldn't go door to door to deliver corpses. Whoever's family was taken away would have to make countless calls to contact millions of families. The workload was so huge and complicated that no one's superpower would be of any use. They had to rely on the government. Superman volunteered to go to the moon to deal with Solomon Grundy's body. The rest of them also split up to deal with their own matters. Thea first went to Central City to seal the passage between the two worlds. The cutting-edge technology laboratory was razed to the ground and 1/5 of the city was destroyed. The Lightning Squad rented an apartment as a temporary shelter. They were all very busy. After sealing the passage, they said a few words and turned to leave. When she arrived at Seaside City, she found that it was like a large funeral home. The local police, the city government, the city council, and all kinds of public welfare organizations were helping, but it was still very busy. The corpses were piled up together and the scene was too messy. Sia hurriedly walked past and saw 2 young people fighting over it. "This is my father's body." The young man pulled the corpse's leg and wouldn't let go. The other burly man with tattoos all over his body and earrings said in a muffled voice, "This is my boss's body. Look, there's a bullet hole in his leg." Quarrels like this could be seen everywhere. The government actually couldn't figure out why the corpses had come to Seaside City, and fooled the people that it was all an alien conspiracy. The people were generally thick-skinned. Many of them were corpses that had been dead for many years, so they weren't very sad. Most of them came with the intention of compensation. That's right. The government and the consortiums controlled by a few superheroes collectively paid a sum of money to take the bodies away and rebury them in the coffins. The Congress didn't stop them either. Everything was handled specially. A huge amount of money was now parked in the Seaside City government's account. After the news was released, millions of people came early in the morning to claim the corpses. There were a total of more than 1 million corpses. Excluding those that were beaten beyond recognition, there were less than 800,000 who could be recognized and whose original appearance could be seen. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that 2 or 3 people would fight over a corpse. Thea had nothing to do with this. She couldn't wear a white lamp and cast a great resurrection spell on the spot to resurrect all the dead and send them back to their homes. That wasn't realistic at all. The government personnel were all old foxes. They could completely distinguish between the real and the fake. She came to Seaside City mainly to deal with the 7 Lantern Corps. The Black Hand was a hot potato. Thea had no interest in this Black Lantern ring that could only be worn after death. She handed it over to the Green Lantern Corps to choose a place to lock up. Green Lantern, Yellow Lantern, and Purple Lantern left in batches. The Saint let a few of his underlings return to Odium while he stayed behind. He felt that the people of Earth were very emotional and was prepared to recruit a few more members. Chapter 861. Recently, the Saint had been pestering Barry to explain the path of hope. Barry was about to get married and was busy every day. He had to work at the police station and fight criminals. How could he have the time? In the end, he chose to reject the Saint's invitation to join the Blue Lamp team. The Saint had no choice but to leave Earth. He wanted to find the Blue Lamp Beast, the luminous room phoenix, a phoenix with 3 faces. When Thea wore the white lamp, she saw its figure. Atakitas took the big blue cat named Spirit Star to kill a few cat abusers. After that, he returned to the 666 fan area with the red lamps. The only one that stayed on Earth was the orange lamp. Thea found Laughless in a place that looked like a junkyard. This guy had collected a lot of junk, such as old refrigerators, cars, and buckets. Whether they were useful or not, he picked them all up and brought them back. "Hey! What are you doing?" Miss Milady flew in the air and saw Laughless sitting on a 3-legged stool and writing rapidly. However, his right hand was still holding the lantern, so he could only write with his left hand. With 3 claws, the way he held the pen was like holding a dagger. "I'm writing." Perhaps it was the white light that washed away the murderous aura on Sia. Laughless raised his head and looked at her, speaking with a calm expression. Thea also felt a lot calmer. She looked at Laughless' so-called writing materials, and laughed in anger. This guy found a roll of toilet paper and wrote a lot of words on it. Fortunately, the light ring had a translation function, so he wrote in English. From shampoo to slippers to trains and planes, this orange lamp wrote more than 10 meters of content on the toilet paper. "You're going to send this to Santa Claus?" Thea pointed at the long piece of paper and asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Laughless was overjoyed. Yes, Baldy said that this Santa Claus can fulfill all wishes. You guys have a really good place here. Thea was speechless. If Luther had a level 9 intelligence, this guy in front of her was not even level 2. He was only a little stronger than the husky because he could talk. If Luther were to stay on Earth and eventually get the orange ring, Miss Milady would not be surprised at all. While Laughless was still chattering, a portal opened behind him, and Thea pushed him in. Realizing that she was not intimidating enough, She took out the Black Death scythe and waved it at the portal. Get lost. Go back to your Akolo. If you dare come to Earth again, I'll chop you into pieces. After dealing with the chores, he finally had time to organize his thoughts. He put away his scythe. The Black Death Emperor could use it as a reference, but he couldn't imitate it. Those who learned from him would live, while those who imitated him would die. This was because their paths were completely different. Just like what she said before she wore the white lantern, death was life's friend. The two did not repel each other. Instead, they should be closely related. Peeking at death from life was the path she had chosen. At this moment on the other side of the earth. Cairo, Egypt. The light of civilization had long since left. Now, there was only a group of ordinary people who were running around for basic necessities of life. The country had no foundation. Externally, the roads were narrow, and there was a lot of garbage piled up in the street corners. Everyone was numb to life. But today, their leisure life seemed to be a little more interesting. A man and a woman were walking on the street dressed strangely. Nowadays, young people wearing short-sleeved shirts and jeans could be seen everywhere on the streets of Cairo. The woman could wear a veil and any kind of clothing. Even so, the man and woman's dressing was still very eye-catching. The man looked like he had just come out of a bathhouse. He only had a white cloth around his waist. His upper body was bare, and the muscles on his arms and chest bulged as if he was full of strength. The woman wore a flowery robe. Instead of walking quickly with her head down, she looked around wantonly. The two spoke in a low voice, but the locals couldn't understand their language at all. The young people might be watching from afar, but some of the more traditional old people couldn't accept the woman's unorthodox behavior at all. An old woman, short and stout, wearing a black robe that covered her feet. Behind the veil was a rigid and serious old face. She scolded the two loudly and kept poking the woman with her finger. The muscular man's eyes were as sharp as a knife. He grabbed the old woman's collar and lifted her up. The young woman whispered a few words to him. The man looked around and saw that everyone avoided his gaze. Only then did he pull the woman away. Chayara, this is no longer our world. At least, it's not the world that I know. The woman was silent. These two were naturally the first-generation Hawkman and Hawkgirl, who were resurrected by the river water formed by the white light. At this time, they were still using their original names, Prince Khufu and Priest Chayara. The two's consciousness was very chaotic during the Black Light period. The purple crystal of love, 1,000 years, Horus divine power, and the end metal made them far stronger than ordinary people. Otherwise, they wouldn't have flown back to Earth with the black light ring after being shattered by Thea. They were lucky enough to be resurrected by the white light. However, Earth had changed too much. Ancient Egypt had already entered the history books. The two didn't speak the same language. At first, they flew in the sky without wearing any clothes. When they saw an ordinary person, they wanted to take him as a servant. After that, they were beaten up by the police with all kinds of guns. Only then did they become obedient. Without the end metal hammer, their strength was limited. After leaving Earth for 4,500 years, they returned again. The two carefully explored the world. Everything was new to them. Their curiosity was more than their fear. Wait! Khufu suddenly reached out and stopped Chayara. He looked at the shadow behind him. A tall man in a cape walked out slowly. Why are you following us? Khufu's intelligence could only be said to be average. However, after thousands of years of continuous influence of the end metal, both his brain and body had been strengthened. He stuttered and asked in Arabic mixed with some English. These two languages were spoken by people in Egypt. In his opinion, these were the mainstream languages of the current world. Batman, who volunteered to monitor them, was slightly stunned. However, he also knew Arabic. It was always good to be able to communicate. Previously, Thea said that the two were not aliens. Instead, they were natives of Earth. They were people from 4,000 years ago. Now, he just wanted to verify it. Batman wasn't too surprised. In this day and age, there were aliens and goddesses. Adding 2 more ancient people wouldn't be a big deal. After leaving a warning that he would monitor them and not do anything wrong, Batman prepared to retreat. Hey, wait! Did you see our hammer? I think it's on Earth, Khufu said and gestured. Such a long and wide thing. Batman was such a sneaky person. Why would he return the target's weapon to them? The two of them didn't have names on their foreheads. What if they were bad guys? Chapter 862. Batman comforted the two ancient people very pretentiously, saying that he would look for it and return it to them when he found it. After that, he left Egypt in the Batfighter under the two people's gratitude. The two simple ancient people felt that Batman was a good person. They did not know each other, but he was so enthusiastic about helping them. They told him all about the characteristics of the hammer. Realizing that the hammer was extraordinary, the world's #1 detective Batman began to analyze all kinds of details. Following the clue of the purple crystal, he found the purple lamp Carol Ferris. After that, he did not need to do much to know that the hammer was in the hands of the young lady. When she received Batman's call, Thea was cleaning up the trash left behind by LoveLore. Just like Bodhisattva was afraid of the cause, mortals were afraid of the effect. The more powerful she was now, the more cowardly she became. Based on her personality in the past, she could just open a portal and throw this messy trash mountain to another planet. However, she did not dare to do so now. What if it caused an ecological disaster? What if some substances and the planet had a violent reaction? The destruction of a planet would also affect her. White Lamp was very picky. In order to prevent all kinds of accidents, she could only find a company under her to deal with these things. When she heard Batman ask for the hammer, she did not insist that she did not have it. According to fantasy, Eagle Hero and Eagle Girl were people who had great karma for this world. Do they want it or do you want it? Thea thought about it before speaking. Batman had a criminal record. It was not impossible to return it to Eagle Hero and Eagle Girl, but giving it to Batman would require some consideration. This thing is not magical equipment, is it? No, it's pure metal. It won't explode and affect the timeline, right? No, it's pure metal. The spaceships that landed on Earth before were all like this. Thea was silent after saying that. Batman was just short of saying, "Hurry up and throw it to me so that I can study it." Bruce, you can research it, but remember to return it to them. They are not bad people. They might be superheroes in the future. After that, Thea sensed Batman's location and opened a portal. She threw the Hawkgirl's hammer, which had lost all of its spiritual chi after smashing the Black Death Emperor, to him. As for the Hawkman's hammer, it was gone. After thinking for a while, she threw the Horus's bracer over. It was useless to her, but it would be of great help to the Hawkman. Under her repeated pleas, Batman promised that as long as they didn't do anything bad, he would return the money to them as soon as possible. Thea had reservations about this. Batman was similar to her. Most likely, it will also be a hollow hammer, right? Thea was very confident in Batman's black technology. And metal was not a problem for him. On the home planet of the razor-sharp insectoids, deep within the planet's core, there was a spacious prison cell. Kerrigan had taken it out to entertain the nameless guardian who was here as a guest. Huge chains hung him in the air, and a few insectoids were injecting hallucinogens through their tentacles. The guardian's old face was like a piece of wood, without any change, even though his consciousness was immersed in various illusory worlds. How is it? Thea had been busy for 2 days before she remembered that there was still a captive here. She quickly teleported over, ready to study the guardian's eternal life. This old guy is very stubborn. He didn't give me any useful information. Kerrigan was a little scared. She had spent a lot of effort to capture this guardian, and lost a lot of her subordinates. She did not expect that after being tortured repeatedly, the guardian would be completely unmoved. Thea looked at the little blue man and sneered. Other than Gans said, the rest of these guys were the scourge of the universe. She had no pressure to deal with them. After thinking for a while, she said, "How about this? Focus on one thing and ask for his name." The reason why he is silent now is because his emotions have been stripped away. However, he will not completely give up on his name. As long as he remembers his name, the rest will be done naturally. Although she was skeptical, Kerrigan still went to carry out the task. In less than 10 minutes, she ran over and said that she had found something. His name is Haruba. He is a student of some big shot. He comes from planet Martis. That seems to be their home planet. Kerrigan told her the information she had obtained, as if she was asking for credit. Thea looked at the guardian who was completely unconscious. She separated a strand of her spiritual power and began to read his memory. His psychological defense collapsed completely. The little blue man's memory seemed to be unguarded and could now be viewed at will. 10 billion years of life had allowed them to experience too many things. Thea picked and chose. With her divine attainment, it took her a full half an hour to read all the memories. She knew some things, such as the guardian stripping away his own emotions to create the first light. She did not know some things, such as Haruba's teacher being the famous Kalana. 10 billion years ago, the Martis people were the earliest life forms born in the universe. They developed a powerful technological civilization that far surpassed the current era, surpassing Batman, Luthor, and Brainiac. As the leading scientist among his people, Kalana's thirst for knowledge was unparalleled. He tried to explore the mystery of the origin of the universe. This guy's black technology had reached a level that no one before him could surpass. He invented the cosmic probe and saw a giant hand holding the image of the origin of the universe. Just like how Batman inadvertently created the dark multiverse, Kalana's reckless actions also created the multiverse and the antimatter universe. In order to monitor the countless parallel universes, Watchers and Anti-Watchers were born on a conceptual level, and it lasted until today. Kalana and his people, including Ganser and Sed, had shrunk from their normal height to their current height of 3 inches. God knows what the big shot was thinking. He might have thought that the essence was condensed. When he shrunk his body, he gave them eternal life. They were older than the old gods and the new gods combined. The spirit of existence was born on Earth, but they were the first life forms in the universe. The little blue men now were at least 1,000 times weaker than when they were at their peak. Only Kalana and Ganser had seen the image of the first light's giant hand. Haruba had only heard of it. However, they were still able to seal the first light after they shrunk. Judging from her memories, Thea felt that she was on par with the first light, or even slightly weaker. The Black Death Emperor could kill the first light instantly, but she was not at that level. Keep him alive. Don't let him escape. Thea did not kill this living dictionary of the universe, but she did not let him go either. This group of people had caused a lot of trouble in the universe. Killing him would be a waste. After leaving the main planet, she took a stroll around Earth before heading to the starting point of time, the base of the Endless Family. Her ranking had risen by a small amount, which meant that peeking into death from life was not a problem. The reason why she did not improve much was that she did not have much understanding of life. 75th place. The Black Death Emperor had dropped to 230th place. He would not be able to catch up to her in a short time. This made her sigh in relief. Chapter 863. Now she had 2 choices. One was to continue pursuing the Death Realm, while the other was to do the opposite and walk the path of death. There were no shortcuts to walking the path of life. After all, the spirit of existence was not her. The life equation would be of great help, but that would require her to break through the wall of origin. It could be said that danger and opportunity coexisted. However, the Death Realm could be achieved by burning willpower. This time, she had saved the world by herself. The entire universe was grateful to her, and she had more willpower than ever before. Between the 2 choices, she chose the latter. Let's begin. Thea divided her mind into 3 parts. 1 part stared at her ranking, 1 part burned willpower, and the remaining part began to accept the various experiences of death. A large number of thoughts entered her mind. She kept those that suited her and abandoned those that did not. Her aura changed as well. Sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was gloomy. In short, it was not sunny at all. Slowly, she stopped paying attention to her ranking. Instead, she put on the white light ring and relied on the other intelligent beings to share her negative emotions. She had used up all her willpower. It took her a long time to get rid of the haze in her heart. F***CK, as expected, shortcuts aren't easy to take. Thea could only feel her head aching. It was a real headache. The willpower of the beings had indeed brought her countless experiences. However, there were all sorts of things, and not all of them were suitable for her. She was dazzled by her choices. She felt that one made sense, and another made sense as well. When she opened her eyes, she did not know how much time had passed. 60th. She looked up at her ranking. Thea was satisfied. She had a vague feeling that the death deity position was very close to her. It was only half a step away. After obtaining the death deity position, she could call herself the death goddess. This top-tier deity position would allow her to grow explosively. It would not be a problem for her to rival the Heavenly Father and Darkseid. If it were before the Endless Family, she would have been so happy to obtain the death deity position that she would not sleep for the entire night. Now she felt very faint. The death goddess was nothing. Only by removing the word goddess would she be truly awesome. She sighed. She needed to settle down for a while and take that step with her own strength. After returning to Earth, she hovered in the air for a long time without alerting anyone. Finally, she mustered her courage and went to meet a person. Purgatory Island. Ever since Yao Fei left the island, there had been no signs of human habitation. Some of the animals on the island had sensed the waves of divine power emanating from her body, and without exception, all chose to hide. Thea took off her shoes and strolled on the beach. Looking at the ground she walked on, she felt a little disappointed. The sand that she stepped on was stained with a trace of death aura. Once the sand was collected and slightly refined, it would become a powerful semi-divine tool. Shaking his head and smiling foolishly, he looked in the direction and flew toward the southern end of the island. This was the place where Oliver had first set foot on Purgatory Island. Old Robert was buried here, but now that the tomb had been opened from the inside, Black Lantern made Old Robert's bones fly back to Star City. After dark, Oliver buried his father in the Quinn family graveyard. But Thea knew that they were just bones. Old Robert's soul was still on this island. At first, the tomb was very simple and crude. At that time, Oliver was a good-for-nothing. He simply dug a hole and buried himself. Later on, due to various reasons, it was not repaired. When the Black Lantern was unearthed, it completely destroyed this place. Thea picked up a wooden stick nearby and gathered the dirt together. Then, she hugged her knees and sat in front of the tomb. I can't resurrect you. I'm sorry. After a long time, she finally thought of this sentence. I know. I don't blame you. Old Robert's shadow walked out of thin air and sat beside her. Thea was not surprised. The goddess of soul, half a step away from the goddess of death, how could she be afraid of ghosts? She chose her words carefully. I'm not. She wanted to tell old Robert about her past. She felt guilty towards him. Even though he was well aware of it, it would be different if she said it out loud. However, she couldn't find the words to say. Old Robert stroked her hair. I know. It's my fault. I wronged Moira first. You'll always be my daughter. You, Oliver, Moira, you're doing well. I'm satisfied. I don't blame him. He's my best friend. I'm happy for him. He has a chance to make up for all his mistakes. Thea knew that the he old Robert was referring to was Malcolm. The two of them did have a deep friendship, but fate had played them. But, I have the ability to resurrect you. A little backlash is nothing to me. Your life shouldn't stop here, Thea said, pointing at the deserted island. My mission is over. You've all done well. That's enough, my daughter. Father. She watched old Robert slowly disappear into thin air and turn into a white light that shot into the sky. She did not speak for a long time. A normal person's soul could not survive for 10 years. It was her obsession that kept old Robert. Now, she had completely let it go. Looking at the place where old Robert disappeared, Thea smiled. Heaven could not wait to take him away. With old Robert's past, he was no different from a normal capitalist. Heaven? What a joke. Could those people who died under the Quinn Corporation's brass knuckles be fake? Heaven did something so illegal. It was obvious that they cared about politics. If she took half a step forward, she would be the goddess of death and the lord of the underworld. She would be on the same level as Heaven, the new creation star, and the apocalypse star. If she did him a favor now, everything would be easier in the future. She shook her head and stopped thinking about this mess. She started a fire not far away. The sea breeze blew, and she sat quietly for the night until the morning sun rose. She looked at her own path. Just a little bit more. There was one more thing that she needed to do. In a small town in Wisconsin, there were less than 20,000 residents. In order not to appear rude, Thea drove a car out of her local business. The doorbell rang for a while, and a woman who could be considered pretty opened the door. Thea smiled. Hi, we've met before. It was 11 years ago. The young woman was very nervous. She stood in front of the door helplessly. She looked behind Thea for a long time. Seeing that she was alone, she sighed in relief. Please come in. Thank you. Thea looked at the furnishings in the room. Many of the furniture were old, but they were clean and organized. There was a picture of the young woman and a little boy on the wall. "What's your purpose here?" The young woman looked at her looking at the picture. Her tone was a bit unfriendly, but because of her personality, she could not be forceful. "William. I'm here for William. He's my brother's son and my father's grandson." Sia's words were very direct. If it weren't for the fact that she had a child and had some blood ties with Oliver, she wouldn't have been able to care about him. This child was old Robert's direct descendant. She had an obligation to do something for him. Chapter 864. He's my son. He has nothing to do with you. The woman was a little agitated. However, under Thea's indifferent gaze, she shrank back. "You've misunderstood me. The child is still yours. I just think that the child should know the truth. If he just wants to be an ordinary person, he can. If he wants to become extraordinary, it's not difficult for me." She wasn't exaggerating. After all, first light and troublemakers could change the reality of ordinary people. Although the effect of such changes was very short, Big Brother Fate was still alive and well. Without his consent, the result of a casual change would be corrected by fate. Without the initiative to solidify, changing reality wasn't as good as it seemed. Thea wasn't far from that realm. She couldn't make a big change. However, after making a small change and solidifying it, it would be easy for her cheap nephew to add a talent. Even if he was a super useless person, she could still force him to improve. Now, it was up to them to make a choice. Call the child out, or you can go in and talk to him. He's eavesdropping by the door. The young woman hurried into the bedroom to negotiate with the child. Thea waited leisurely. To her, this was just a mission. She didn't have any opinions about the other person's choice. Not long after, the young woman came out with the little boy. The little boy was about the same age as Damien. However, his eyes were filled with confusion and helplessness, like a flower in a greenhouse. "William, I'm your aunt. You can come to me if you have any trouble." She reached out and stroked the child's head. The child's nervousness eased a little. "All right, tell me your choice." The young woman hugged her son. "I don't love Oliver. I was just confused back then. We won't go with you." Thea nodded. She welcomed the woman's choice. After all, she was close to Shadow. Now that she was pregnant, she brought home another woman for her brother. No matter how she looked at it, she was going to cause trouble. "Okay. But William, he's very smart. He should receive an excellent education." After some discussion, they finally agreed on everything. The child would still have the same surname as his mother. Thea only needed to ensure that he would receive excellent high school and university resources. The mother and son continued to live a peaceful life. Thea only had to make a few phone calls. "Are you still going to be an ordinary person?" On the way back, she was deep in thought. Even though she vaguely mentioned that the child had some talent, the mother and son still chose to reject it. Not everyone liked superpowers and wanted to be superheroes. The mother and son just wanted to live like ordinary people. Thea did not say anything more. Leaving the town, she could say that she had completed all her tasks. She respected the wishes of the mother and son, protected them, and let them live a peaceful life. That was enough. Now, she only needed an opportunity, and success would follow naturally. After thinking for a while, Thea realized that it was a little arbitrary for her to make a decision in private. After all, the child's father was still alive. She didn't ask the young woman's name from the beginning to the end. The young woman didn't want to marry into the Quinn family, so she avoided a lot of drama. From all aspects, she was a good woman. Thea felt that she should tell Oliver that this was his son and he had the right to know. But no matter what, this required some skills and methods. She remembered that some time ago, everyone in the Righteous Alliance knew that the grandson of the Barry family had come to their door. A bunch of heroes were laughing so hard that they almost couldn't breathe. Among them, Green Arrow Oliver laughed the loudest. In order to save her brother's face, she felt that she had to study how to say it. 2 heads were better than 1. She took a step forward. She wanted to discuss it with Diana. As a specially invited expert of the Louvre, Diana also had an independent office and assistant here. The young lady walked in with familiarity. As soon as she entered the door, she found that the atmosphere was not right. The Valkyrie was sulking. "Who provoked you? I'll vent your anger for you." She was very confident. In a place like Earth, She was very confident. That guy is so rude. It's hard to believe that he is a prince. In the office, Diana endured and endured, but she still complained to Thea. The matter was not complicated. A few days ago, out of kindness, she introduced a job to the weak duo, who had now changed their name to Carter and Kendra. The combination of an ancient Egyptian prince and a priestess was more than enough to be an expert of ancient civilization in the Louvre. At least that was what she thought. In the end, he was taken aback. What modern people thought was a sacred weapon was just a daily decoration in Kendra's mouth. What gorgeous weapon! Carter said that it was a ceremonial weapon used by the guards. In short, it was just a pile of junk. The two ancient people spoke bluntly and bluntly. They scolded the experts and professors of the Louvre and finally parted on bad terms. After pouring out a lot of grievances, Diana was much more comfortable. Today, she had a single ponytail, wearing a beige top with a skirt and high heels. It was a completely different style from when she was fighting. She took off her shoes and put her feet on her lap. "Give me a massage." Thea used her fingers to gently press her leg muscles. With their physique, they would not be tired even if they stood for 10 years. It was just that Diana was too strong and too self-disciplined. She always took it as her responsibility to protect mankind. She was clearly mentally young, but she pretended that she had seen through the world. She could only show the expression of a little girl when the two of them were alone. The young lady massaged from knee to ankle and finally scratched the soles of her feet twice. "Ha!" The goddess of war rolled her eyes at her. Thea felt that she could give her a score of 99. "Your breath seems to be longer?" Diana wanted to say darker, but it did not seem like it when she looked closely. "That's right. After the battle with the Black Death Emperor, I have a deeper understanding of death. But I'm here today to discuss something else with you." She skipped the beginning and the end and told her about Oliver's illegitimate son. Diana's face was full of gossip. "He has a son? He's already 10 years old? Was the child smart? How tall was he? How fat was he? Could he shoot an arrow?" Thea had done a lot of research, and she could answer all of them without any problems. Half an hour later, when they talked about whether they should call the police or learn martial arts to fight back, the two goddesses realized that they had gone off topic. "We should tell Oliver the truth." Diana could not think of a good excuse in the end. The two of them decided to talk about it together. When they found Oliver, they realized that the archery club was crowded. A bunch of people they knew were here. Big Sister, Miss Thea, Sister Thea, Sister Diana. A bunch of people greeted them. They looked at Damien, Tim, Raven, and Cassie. The two goddesses were confused. These people did not keep in touch with each other. They usually lived in different places. Why did they come to Green Arrow's place today? Chapter 865. At that moment, they heard the sound of continuous fighting coming from the room. They turned a corner and saw Oliver fighting with someone with 2 bamboo knives. His opponent was Nightwing Dick Grayson. He was good at using short sticks, and his bamboo knives were equally fierce. The two of them were evenly matched, and it was hard to tell who would win. Sia beckoned Damien to her side. She asked him carefully and found out the whole story. Tim was going to set up his own superhero organization. Compared to the calm Dick and Jason, who advocated strength, he preferred to use his brain and unite a group of people to fight for a goal. In his opinion, this was the true way of being a hero. To set up an organization, there had to be a place to train and communicate with teammates. After leaving Batman, he was going to do this on his own. Without many choices, he set his sights on Green Arrow. Although Quinn Construction wasn't as valuable as the technology companies in Thea's hands, it couldn't withstand the disasters that happened every day in the United States. In one dark night, Seaside City and a third of Central City were destroyed, as well as a dozen small and medium-sized cities. Now, real estate had become an important part of the national economy. In short, Oliver, who controlled Quinn Construction, had a lot of houses in his hands. Tim set the location of the future team in San Francisco. It was far from the territory of traditional heroes, but the crime rate wasn't low. It was very suitable for the new team. Oliver agreed without hesitation, but since he had nothing to do, he made a request. He wanted to fight with him. There was no gambling, and there was no bullying of the poor. No matter who won or lost, the building could be handed over to Tim. Oliver just wanted to take the opportunity to warn the young people not to be arrogant and complacent. The result of the battle wasn't too surprising. The young people who used martial arts were beaten black and blue by Oliver. Even if Tim went up personally, it was useless. Even if Oliver didn't use a bow and arrow, he wouldn't be a match for him in close combat. Helpless, he called Dick. It had to be said that Nightwing's seniority had always been an awkward topic. He had been fighting crime for more than a decade. It was more than enough to say that he was an old hero, but considering that he and Batman were like father and son, it wasn't good to compare the two. It was even more nonsense to say that he was a young hero. He was 2 years younger than Oliver and 2 years older than Thea. He wasn't young at all. After taking off the Batman alias, the people in the Alliance had asked him to stay in the Alliance and use the code name Nightwing, but he couldn't make up his mind. Now, he had fallen to the point of standing up for a bunch of kids. Thinking about it, it was quite interesting. Thea only needed a few glances to know that Nightwing was no match for her brother. As the successor to Batman's legacy, Nightwing's various abilities had reached the pinnacle. There was no doubt that he was at the peak of the second string. If Oliver was at his original level, he wouldn't be able to defeat him without using a bow and arrow. Unfortunately, his brother had been strengthened by Thea several times. Even a slight difference in his physical fitness could lead to a completely different outcome. Although Oliver was also trying his best to suppress it so that he wouldn't jump 3 meters high, he couldn't control it so precisely. When he saw Thea and Diana, he hurriedly stopped and the battle ended in a draw. After sending off a bunch of children, he asked the two of them why they were here. Of course, Thea wouldn't say anything. Her mother and I already knew the truth, but we kept it from you. She blamed it all on magic and insisted that it was divination. What? I have a son outside. He's already 10 years old. Oliver, who was wiping his sweat with a towel, was so shocked that he almost jumped up. To be precise, he's 11 years old. Thea finished telling him this shocking news and wrote down the child's name and address on a sticky note. She also left a recent photo. It was a photo of the mother and son that she took at the young woman's house. He could do whatever he wanted with it. This woman, I don't seem to remember her. Oliver looked at the photo for a long time and was a little speechless. There were too many romantic debts when he was young. He really couldn't remember. Thea clapped her hands and left with Diana. What happened next had nothing to do with her. Diana went back to work. She thought about it. It had been a while since she went to the company. It was a good time to go back and take a look. She entered her office and finished her chores as quickly as possible. After reading a few comics about her and Diana, the secretary led someone in. Who's this? She was reading with great interest. She raised her eyebrows and glanced at the person. She didn't recognize him, so she asked casually. The secretary smiled faintly, and the man beside her almost cried. Boss, it's me. Thea looked away from the computer and took a closer look. He was dressed like a tramp, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. Wasn't this Boston Brand? In Thea's eyes, the dead always looked the same after they died. Red tights, black eyeshadow, like a ghost. Now that he was a living person, she didn't recognize him at first. Fortunately, the mental connection was still there. She pretended to be enlightened. What's the matter? You can't live anymore, so you're here to ask for money, right? The truth was a little strange. Boston Brand's soul frequency changed a lot. The yellow light didn't recognize him. He was neither big nor small. He was a hero, but he couldn't rob people. Now he really couldn't live anymore. The most important thing was that this guy had a girlfriend. She was the younger sister of the Warhawk and White Dove sisters, the girl who inherited the name of White Dove, Dorn Granger. According to his original words, the girl was very attractive to him, and he started to attack her crazily. Now everything was ready, except for a little money. Thea didn't say anything. She wrote him a check and took the flowers. She also found someone to help him get some social documents, such as Social Security and driver's license. After all, he had been dead for a few years, and all these documents had been cancelled. Although Sia had a feeling that this guy would die soon. Well, it was better to stay alive for now. Time passed quickly. A month passed quickly, and she still didn't find the opportunity. However, a few things happened in this month. Tim Drake established the Young Titans. The members were himself, Wonder Girl Cassie, Pulse Bart Allen, the Big Lowly Raven, Animal Boy, Blue Beetle, Martian Maiden, and arms dealer Kurowi Harper, who was 2 years older. Damien was rejected by him with the excuse that he was too young. In fact, he didn't want Batman to be alone. They were father and son, and they could take care of each other. Originally, he wanted Nightwing Dick Grayson to lead the team. At least he could get past Batman's disguise. In the end, Dick rejected the mission and only said that he and Starfire would help. As for the other matter, it could be considered both major and minor at the same time. In the ruins of Seaside City, a white lantern appeared. A few heroes took turns to take it, but no one picked it up. In the end, Thea took it easily. This lantern finally solved the urgent problem. Her white lantern ring was almost out of power. The protective net that was set up before was also effective. The Black Death Emperor's breath didn't cause any pollution to Earth, and it was completely avoided. As for the mission that the Spirit of Existence gave to the resurrected, the young mistress didn't participate. In a place that ordinary people couldn't see, something else happened. Although the antimatter cannon severely injured the Black Death Emperor, it also destroyed a part of the timeline. Time had self-healing properties, and with the help of the Time Master Council to fix the mistake, she didn't take it to heart at first. She didn't expect the loophole to recover so slowly. The elderly version of the Golden Pioneer said that he couldn't do anything. Thea didn't have any good ideas either. The counter-supervisor's strength was above hers. She couldn't resist the antimatter cannon that gathered the energy of a universe. With such a big hole, someone must have passed through the timeline. Thea was depressed. She bragged to Batman that the path she walked was a path, but it was still in her ears when she was slapped in the face. She could only deal with the uninvited guests as they came, and wait for the loophole to recover naturally. Chapter 866. In Diana's apartment, the two were fooling around when the phone suddenly rang and Batman's voice came through. "Both of you, there's an emergency here. Please come to the Watchtower immediately." The two hurriedly changed their clothes and rushed to the Watchtower space base. They were the first to arrive. Batman nodded gently to them and continued to operate a pile of computer equipment. Seeing that there were no outsiders around, Thea couldn't help but say, "Bruce, you should rest. You're too nervous to analyze things day and night." "I'm fine, someone has to do this work." Thea shrugged her shoulders at Diana, indicating that she couldn't do anything. This gentleman was full of energy and had nothing to do. Let's just leave him be. Soon after, Superman and Green Lantern Kyle Rayner arrived at the same time. "Just the few of us? The threat is from space?" Diana saw that no one else came and asked a little strangely. After all, the Justice League had always advanced and retreated together. 3 light-years away from Earth, there are more than 100 unidentified objects. I calculated their various mass and thermal energy reactions and trajectories. They are spaceships and their target is Earth. Batman opened a few screens and pointed to them. "I don't know, never seen it." Noticing that Batman was staring at her, Thea shook her head. There were so many civilizations in the universe. How could she know them all? Batman looked at Kyle Rayner again. The Green Lantern, who was an artist, smiled. "I'm a new Green Lantern." Through the screen, the ring can't scan the information. His meaning was clear. "I'm a newcomer. I don't know the people and things in the universe. I don't know the famous ones and I don't know the unknown ones. You don't have to care about my opinion." "Shall I go take a look?" Superman volunteered. Of course, he wouldn't let him fight alone. Leaving Batman to do the logistics, they flew directly over. Originally, Thea wanted to teleport over, but Superman felt that it was better to be cautious since they didn't know if they were friends or foes. Not long after, they saw these unidentified objects on a planet outside the solar system. Batman guessed correctly. These were indeed spaceships and they were battle type. The spaceships were docked on the ground, and many humanoid creatures were resupplying. Daxam's battleship? The few of them hid in the shadows. Kyle Rayner scanned them with the ring and quickly got the answer. Unfortunately, the ring was very cold. It didn't ask, but Kyle Rayner didn't know how to ask. He could only turn his head and look at the few people around him. Where is Daxam from? How is it compared to Earth? Batman, who was far away in the Watchtower, hurriedly asked. Planet Daxam is the sister planet of Krypton. They should have disappeared into the universe with the explosion of Krypton. Superman said uncertainly. His knowledge was self-taught in the Fortress of Solitude, and he was not sure if he was right. He could only look at Thea. The young mistress had obtained 10 billion years of memories from the guardian Haruba. There were not many things in the universe that she did not know. Superman is right. Daxam, like Krypton, revolves around a red sun. But their system was different from that of Krypton. If Krypton was the United States, then Daxam was the United States, arrogant, powerful, and possessive. According to the classification of civilizations in the universe, Krypton is a level 8 civilization, and they are level 7. Earth should be level 3, not level 4. This doesn't seem to be good news. Do they also have the physique to absorb the yellow sun? Batman asked abruptly. In theory, yes, but not to the extent of Krypton. They are distant relatives of Krypton, and part of their genes are the same. I'll go stop them. Superman panicked. There were more than 100 battleships, and there were at least 10,000 people in total. If everyone could be strengthened, and with a power system, could Earth still be saved? Thea hurriedly pulled him back. Don't be afraid. They have weaknesses too. They are afraid of lead and, she said uncertainly, I see that they are shrouded in the air of death. They are either dying or already dead. Oh. As soon as she finished speaking, one of the battleships burst into flames. The violent explosion blew up 3 or 4 other battleships around it. In the flames, a figure slowly flew out. Many of the Daxramites, who looked no different from Earthlings, raised their weapons and attacked the figure madly. More battleships began to take off, ready to use their cannons to deal with this uninvited guest. However, the attacker was extremely fast. It was as if he could appear in several places at the same time. In the blink of an eye, he destroyed more than 10 battleships. It was hard to imagine that he was going against more than 100 battleships alone, and he planned to wipe them all out. He is slaughtering. We can't just watch. Superman said and rushed out. Thea pursed her lips. These Daxramites were not good people. They were here to invade Earth. Why did you save them? You have people helping you, and you want to stop them? However, to prevent Diana from saying that she went deep into the darkness again, she still flew up. She flew slowly. Diana knew what her lover was thinking. She did not want to make things difficult for Thea, and she also slowed down. Kyle Rayner was just an ordinary artist a month ago. To be honest, he was not confident in fighting against aliens. Naturally, he was not fast either. The 3 of them had not even flown 2 miles when they saw Superman being hit back at a speed faster than when he had rushed up. Thea reached out and pulled him back. That person is so strong. Superman rubbed his chin in disbelief. Thea did not have that much sympathy. The Daxramites were all battleships. They were obviously preparing to invade Earth. Now that there was a kind-hearted person helping, she would not have to dirty her hands. She looked at the figure in the distance. He was almost 2 meters tall, with messy black hair and a red shirt tied around his waist. His skin was pale green, and there was an S carved deep into his muscles on his chest. He was rough and barbaric, but gentle and elegant. The 2 completely different temperaments mixed together. The attacker glanced at them and did not stop attacking. When he got closer, Diana and Kyle Rayner saw that this guy had a teleportation ability. He could also use some strange method to break down the energy weapons that attacked him, as well as various creatures. The energy weapons were broken down with a wave of his hand, and the Daxramites were turned back into atoms and disappeared completely. Stop your massacre. Superman caught his breath and rushed up again. He did not know why, but he felt that the other party made him very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, his strength that could move stars and his iron fist that could break through mountains hit the attacker's chest. The other party did not feel anything. Like an indestructible wall, he did not take half a step back. Instead, he frowned and looked at Superman. As if a little annoyed, the attacker grabbed Superman's shoulder with his left hand and threw him out as if he was throwing trash. Superman's figure became transparent and suddenly disappeared from their sight. Child's play. Thea sneered. A warrior and a mage using teleportation? She grabbed at the void with her right hand, broke through the spatial barrier, and pulled Superman out of the spatial gap again. Who is he? He can actually repel Superman head-on. Kyle Rayner was a little dizzy. These few attacks, whether it was the attack speed or the attack pattern, were a little beyond imagination. Who is he? Genetically, he is a Kryptonian. He has all the abilities of a Kryptonian. In addition, he can teleport, control energy, and maybe other abilities. I think we can call him a super Kryptonian, Thea said with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Chapter 867. What Kryptonian? Superman was thrown into the dimension like a piece of merchandise and then pulled out by Sia. He was a little dizzy after 2 consecutive short-distance translocations. He did not hear a few words clearly, but he heard the word Kryptonian. That's right. Thea pointed to the logo on the attacker's chest. Look at this guy's chest. It's obviously an inverted triangle with a sharp weapon and an S symbol. It means that he's a loyal worshipper of the Ire family. She wanted to say loyal dog, but she changed the word in the end. There are survivors of the Ire family? Batman's voice came from afar. It sounded a little distorted. He couldn't be blamed for being puzzled. The planet had exploded, and how many people from the Ire family had escaped one after another? Superman, Supergirl, Krypton the pet dog, and now another guy popped out. You guys are awesome, don't you know that? If Thea could hear Batman's thoughts, she would have told him that Superman's father was still alive. Supergirl's father, Superman's uncle, was also alive, but no one knew if he was alive or dead in this time and space. In short, the Ire family was the best Kryptonian family. They had been delayed for a while, and the attackers had destroyed all the warships of Daxam. They resisted tenaciously, but unfortunately, in front of the Super Kryptonians, it didn't take much effort. They gave up resistance and fought desperately. When the last couple who were suspected to be the leaders were blown to ashes by the attackers, the fleet from afar was completely destroyed. What was their original purpose? Were they here to invade Earth or to learn? It didn't matter because they were turned to ashes in the fire and explosion. The attackers were ruthless, and no one was left alive. Who should go? Or you talk to him. Maybe he's your relative? Thea put her hands in her pockets and said to Superman leisurely. The attacker came in front of them, and his eyes focused on Superman. I'm Cheer. Your father is the person I respect the most. He is my teacher, and you look exactly like him. Then he pointed at the mark on his chest. I'm proud of this. That's why I've crossed the sea of stars to find you. You will be the hope of Krypton. You are not the first person to tell me this. I have answered you before, and I will say it again. Krypton is gone. Superman thought of General Zod, but he did not let his guard down. Krypton is a great civilization. It can point out the direction for the development of the universe. If we work together we can fix this mistake. Come and help me. Ku-Air was very calm, as if everything was under his control. There was a hint of pain in his eyes. Although he spoke very sincerely, Superman still saw some uncertainty in his eyes. He firmly shook his head and refused. It seemed like a gentle opening, but just when the few of them thought that he was going to use his mouth to escape, the guy named Sure-Air unexpectedly emitted wisps of green gas from his palm, and his entire body seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Before the few of them could understand what this meant, Thea heard a gust of wind behind her head. Is this guy trying to sneak up on me? How laughable. It's just an alien with a little superpower. She put away her original playful smile, twisted her waist, turned around, and raised her leg to meet the incoming fist. The two forces of different attributes collided fiercely. The opponent's attack was very pure, and it was an extremely strong physical force. Thea was in a hurry to fight back, and she did not have time to use her full strength. The two sides were tied. Superman was angry at his relative's despicable behavior. After talking about his father for so long, his father taught him how to sneak up on others? This is blasphemy. With a loud shout he rushed out. Diana was even faster than him. Without saying a word, the Valkyrie drew her 2 swords and slashed at Ku-Air without using a lasso or a shield. Ku-Air seemed to have expected this. Before Diana could draw her swords, he had already reached out a hand, grabbed Diana, and threw her to the other side. At this time, Kyle Rayner had just raised the ring when he was hit. Ha! Thea felt that it was very strange. The speed of this place was not that fast compared to them, but Diana was subdued in one move. This was a bit exaggerated. With the improvement of the realm of death, even her necromancy spells were strengthened 100 times, but considering Superman and the others' perception, Thea did not use her current strongest means. Without time to think, she opened her left hand, and a giant hand appeared above Ku-Air's head, and the giant hand slammed down with an irresistible force. But Sure-Air was still calm and unhurried. His hand struggled to tear open a crack on the top of his head. Just as he tore open the crack, Sia's giant hand had already smashed down. The two of them seemed to be acting, and their coordination was extremely ingenious. How is this possible? Thea's first thought was that this guy could read minds, but she quickly overturned this conclusion. She was a half-step goddess of death. If she resisted, even a great demon like the 3 palace demons could not do it. Then, she thought that it might be a prophetic ability, but after 3 consecutive moves, her opponent was able to take the initiative and make her attack disappear. She had never heard of anyone who could predict 100% in a battle. This was almost to the realm of omniscience and omnipotence. If he really had this realm, he could kill Thea in 1 move, and there was no need to attack slowly. The most likely options were eliminated, and the least likely option was the truth. You have experienced these things? What is happening now is not the first time for you, right? You can predict our every move because you have experienced it before. Your timeline is wrong. Thea felt that it was very troublesome. This guy was obviously a variable that jumped out after the antimatter cannon broke her timeline. Seeing that Ku-Er was silent, Thea knew that her guess was not far from the truth. After all, her strength was close to the ceiling, and there were only a few who could be stronger than her, and there was definitely no Kryptonian among them. It seems that I guessed right? In my present, in your past, you have fought with me. Where did you find the courage to stand in front of me again? Thea's momentum began to rise. She spoke disdainfully, but in her heart, she had already raised the threat level of her opponent to the highest level. Without something to rely on, she did not think that Ku-Er could defeat her. Sure enough, Thea released 3 spells in a row. 2 of them were transferred away by her opponent, and he might not have seen the remaining 1. However, he also relied on Superman to block the shot and survived without much effort. Ku-Er's attacks were equally fierce. Diana could attack him, but Superman and Kyle Rayner were completely passive. Thea had to constantly rescue them, and the battle scene was extremely ugly for a while. Your Majesty, this is the 3rd time we have fought. I know your attacking methods better than you think. Ku-Er spoke to her for the first time and exposed her true life level. Chapter 868. One had to know that the people of the Righteous Alliance never called them goddesses. The term god was very vague to modern people. Plus, they didn't put on airs and just joked around. No one took the term god seriously. For example, Batman Luthor treated the gods as a high-level life form. Other than the little blue people and the holy walkers who had received her favor, in this universe, there were very few people who called her a goddess. Seeing her frown, Shire smiled and attacked Kyle Rayner with all his strength. Thea could only use her weakness to attack Shire's strength and compete with this super Kryptonian. She had never felt so aggrieved before. She had always been the one who had all the information and defeated the enemy. Now the tables had turned, and she was being defeated by Shire, who was obviously weaker than her. How could she be described as depressed? You fought us 3 times? Why? Diana hurriedly blocked Shire's attack with her shield. She knew that her lover's strength was his weakness. On the other side, Superman also began to attack. With the cooperation of several people, they tried to take the initiative. Shire was obviously at a disadvantage, but he didn't panic. Karl-Air, I sincerely invited you to rebuild Krypton, but you rejected me 3 times. Your soul has been corrupted by Earth. You are no longer a Kryptonian. You are a Kryptonian, a disgrace to the Air family. Shire became angrier as he spoke. He seemed to have thought of something and roared. He grabbed Superman's collar and smashed his head on Superman's nose. Bright red blood flowed down the corner of his mouth and chin. Thea hurriedly pulled him away by the back of his collar. Both she and Shire were strong, and neither of them let go. With a tearing sound, a large piece of Superman's uniform was torn from his collar to his chest, revealing a patch of chest hair. Just as he saved Brother Superman, Kyle Rayner was sent flying with a punch on the other side. Ark was very smart. 70 to 80% of his attacks landed on Kyle Rayner and Superman. Thea and Diana could only provide support from behind. Thea couldn't use many of her dark spells, and she didn't know if her opponents were aware of her remaining spells. In addition, she had to save people and take care of their self-esteem. Thea couldn't let the 2 men hide behind her and watch, so the battle became extremely intense. Kryptonite, don't worry about me. Use kryptonite. Superman was punched into the ground again. Chi-Air seemed to be venting his anger, and he even stomped heavily on Superman's head. Superman's voice came from the ground, and it sounded a little muffled. Kryptonite? Thea searched her ring for a long time, but she couldn't find it. The Kryptonians were not a threat to her. She was not Luthor Batman, who carried kryptonite in his pocket every day when he went to the toilet. However, she had a lot of things in her ring. It would take her at least 180 minutes to find such a small stone. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a green light for Kyle Rayner. She might as well simulate one on the spot. She sent the wavelength characteristic of kryptonite to Kyle Rayner, the #1 cheat in the Seven Lantern Corps. His talent could be said to be unprecedented. After thinking for a while and trying twice, a green long sword appeared. The wavelength characteristic on it was kryptonite. When the long sword was swung down, the expected scene of the enemy falling to the ground did not happen. Instead, Ark looked a little ferocious, as if he had recalled an experience. He jumped up high and punched the long sword that appeared from the kryptonite. The punch that could move mountains and fill the sea hit the ridge of the sword, and the sword was smashed into pieces. Damn it! Thea cursed silently. She could see a lot from this blow. This guy had almost no shortcomings. Superman could only rely on his willpower to resist kryptonite. Fiora and Kara could barely run, but this guy was almost immune to it. Although she could see some effects from the details, the effect was not big. Was it because of the previous 2 fights that he was prepared? Thea felt that his skin color was very abnormal. It was blue, which was not the color of a Kryptonian skin. It seems that there are kryptonite particles in his body. After being hit for the umpteenth time, Superman activated his supervision to observe and came to this conclusion. Thea nodded. No wonder Ark beat up Superman like he was beating a dog. She did not know how he did it by chance. Although the content was not high, he was now like a living kryptonite source. Troublesome guy. Thea began to emit wisps of black gas. She waved her hand and a shadow flame burned. The black flame burned fiercely and quickly burned the air. It was like a fire dragon soaring in the sky. With a swish, Ark disappeared. This move was the teleportation that he had used many times. Thea wanted to teach him a lesson for using teleportation in front of a mage-type god. She clenched her right fist and hammered the surrounding space. An invisible wave hit Ark, who was in the gap of space. He did not look good and could only retreat again. What greeted him was the shadow flame. Ark shouted and opened his hands. Many thin lines that could not be seen with ordinary eyes emerged from his palms. The thin lines were like a giant net that tied up the black flame. Then they began to transform, rearrange, and establish a new structure. He had used Thea's magic to add an energy shield to himself. This guy's ability was strange, a bit like a firestorm. Thea was not careless. She flicked her fingers, and the flames danced a deadly dance. A part of the silk rushed out of the encirclement and then rolled back to Arkansas. On the other side, Diana, holding a thunder spear, began to cooperate with Thea's attack. Superman and Kyle Rayner used long-range means to help. It was only a matter of time before Ark was defeated. Is this all you've got? Laugh. Why aren't you laughing? Sia grabbed Sher-Er's arm. The realm of death had a great influence on her. The longer the battle went on, the greater the hostility in her heart. She wanted to tear his arm off, but she did not expect his body to be extraordinarily sturdy. She tried to pull it off but failed. She could only kick his waist. The tremendous force caused Shar to fly more than 700 meters away from the ground. He crashed into a small mountain before he could barely stop himself. Diana threw out the lasso of truth. She did not expect Ark's reaction to be so fast. He rolled out of the lasso's range ungracefully. This guy seems to be stalling for time? As a newcomer, Kyle Rayner was not very sure. Thea was stunned. She remembered that this guy came to Earth alone. Wait a minute. It was indeed very suspicious. This kind of strength was not bad in general. It was no problem for him to dominate the universe, but it was definitely not enough to stop her. She had not seen any powerful means until now. Thea lost the advantage of being able to predict things, and it was the 3rd time they were facing each other. She was very confused. She did not know where her opponent's trump card was. You guys go back to Earth first. I'll deal with him. Originally, teleportation was the fastest, but this guy was also proficient in teleportation. Everything in the world was difficult to build and easy to destroy. She did not know if her opponent had any anti-teleportation means. For safety's sake, She let Diana and the others fly back. At the same time, she used her strongest spiritual power to remotely connect to Batman. Bruce, turn off the electronic communication device. Listen to me. If this guy is not lying, this is his third time coming to Earth. That was his past, our present. I don't know what he's relying on. He knows me very well. He knows Superman, Diana, and the others. I don't know if my next move is part of his plan, but I know that you are a variable. Judging from the timeline, he transmigrated first and you returned later. Keep an eye on Earth and do things according to your judgment. Superman and the others are flying back. Thea did not dare to guarantee that these 3 messages would be sent as quickly as possible, but she believed in Batman's ability to disrupt the situation. The so-called third time was more like carrying memories or jumping back to a certain point. This point was the hole that the antimatter cannon had pierced. As for restarting the timeline, it was completely impossible. Even Big Brother Fate, the Stranger of Ghosts, Darkseid's father Zeus, and so many strong people were in the timeline. It was not something that could be restarted by a cat or a dog. Thea even had a hunch that there was a subtle balance between his transmigration and Batman's return. The key to victory or defeat was likely to be Batman. Thea looked up and saw that Superman, Diana, and the others had already flown far away. She smiled, and a fierce light flashed in her eyes. Her breath became sharper and sharper, and the nails on her hands grew a lot longer. Now let's see who can save you. Without waiting for him to answer, she flew over like a black lightning bolt. Her figure was very blurry. That was a visual error caused by high-speed movement. Chapter 869. In the face of Thea's all-out attack, Shar chose the most conservative defense. Unfortunately, there was still a big gap in strength. The landscape of this uninhabited planet was destroyed. Thea did not hold back at all. A large amount of death aura was everywhere, and the entire battlefield was like a ghost town. With a bang, Shar fell heavily to the ground. Heavily injured, he struggled a few times but could not stand up. Thea stepped on his neck. You're so difficult to deal with. You wasted 20 minutes of my time. Tell me, what's your plan? If you tell me well, I'll spare your life. Shar's mouth was full of blood. He coughed hard twice. I don't need your pity. Rebuilding Krypton has been my long-cherished wish. Now that this wish is about to come true, I have no regrets. After saying that, he closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting for death. You said you're facing me for the third time? I don't see how much of a threat you are. So that means you were killed by me the first 2 times? Actually, you don't know what's going to happen next, right? Because you were killed by me, you went back to that loophole. Thea analyzed. I didn't stop the first 2 times and killed you. Actually, that was a relief. You have some special ability that allows you to go back to that time point after death. When you come here for the 4th time, you'll be more familiar with my moves, right? That's why you want to die, isn't it? She smiled and restrained her murderous aura. The more the enemy wants to do something, the more we can't let him do it. Seeing that she couldn't get anything out of him, she summoned a huge stone pillar and tied Shar up tightly with 8 iron chains. He couldn't escape in a short time, so she turned around and returned to Earth. From the time they left the watchtower until now, only an hour had passed. However, Thea did not see the few figures she expected. Not to mention Diana, Superman, and even Batman were nowhere to be found. Thea, you're finally back. She pushed open the door of the surveillance room and saw Nightwing sitting in Batman's usual seat and greeting her. Finally? Why do you use this word? Where's Bruce? Finally, my ass. Nightwing didn't know how to explain. He scratched his head. I don't know much about magic, but it's been a week since Superman and the others returned. I'm sure of that. Thea's first thought was that he was spouting nonsense. Nightwing was talking in his sleep. They hadn't even fought for more than 20 minutes. How could it have been a week? However, after carefully sensing Nightwing, he confirmed that it was indeed Nightwing. However, when she looked at Earth from the corner of her eye, she noticed an anomaly. The flow of time on Earth was wrong. It wasn't magic, but it felt a bit like willpower. The effect was very powerful. The time on the entire Earth was sped up by more than 100 times. In fact, the watchtower was also affected. It was just that she had forced her way in and broke through the enchantment here. She really didn't know what to call it. Where are the others? I can't stay here for long. The enemy should have sensed me. Nightwing felt as if his brain had suddenly gone blank. Then, a lot of things were forced into his mind. This was the discomfort caused by the different flow of time. He forced himself to endure. The new world. The remaining heroes are in the new world. Hearing the word remaining, Thea's heart was hazy. She was closely connected to the new world, so she was directly transported there. The expected scene of wounded people all over the ground and countless urns of ashes didn't appear. Along the way, many people had strange expressions. There was anticipation and a little fear. This made Thea very surprised. She found Batman in the magic school. This guy always wore that outfit regardless of day or night. When she pushed the door open, there was an argument inside. Several magic experts from Earth were present. Thea only nodded slightly to Old Ma. She hurriedly asked Batman, "Where's Diana? My mother? What's the situation on Earth now?" Batman still had a poker face. "The president is still in the White House. There's no danger at the moment. As for Earth, I can only say that the situation is complicated. As for Diana, we don't know where she is either." Thea only felt a sense of absurdity in her heart. They didn't know whether Diana was alive or dead, and her mother was still on Earth. But this group of people was arguing pointlessly. She felt very uncomfortable. Her slender hands clenched tightly. Her eyes became colder and colder. An invisible murderous aura began to spread. "Thea." Malcolm hurriedly called out to her when he saw that she was not in a good state. The young lady also knew that she was on the eve of a breakthrough. At this moment, it was very easy to be affected by death. She focused her mind and took 2 deep breaths to suppress her restlessness. Who is the enemy? There has to be an enemy, right? It's a god who came from the sky. Who? His believers call him Rao. Thea was puzzled. She almost thought that she had misheard. Batman repeated it again. She still couldn't believe it. It can't be. Rao is just an ordinary person. She couldn't tell Batman that she had seen Rao in Haruba's memory. In the eyes of the Kryptonians, Rao was the sage of their race. He was similar to the sages on Earth, but he was definitely not a god. Did you hear it wrong? This guy has been dead for 250,000 years. Thea felt that the information from Batman didn't match what she knew at all. I don't know if that guy is a god or not, but Superman listens to him, and a female Kryptonian is also helping him. Constantine seemed to be talking to himself. The remaining few people spoke one after another, piecing together the whole story. According to their accounts and Batman's calculations, when they were fighting against Hire, a huge alien spaceship came to Earth. A holy god descended from the sky, followed by countless believers. At that time, Superman returned to Earth. No one knew what Rao said to him, but Superman quickly called on everyone to believe in this god, and said that Rao would bring eternal peace and tranquility to Earth. Later, Supergirl Kara joined in. Only Fiora coughed up blood and escaped to the new world. She had yet to wake up. Benefiting from the high reputation of Superman and Supergirl, many ordinary people came out of their homes to accept Rao's gifts, under the premise that they vouched for them with their reputations. At first, there were only a few people, but this number increased by thousands in less than half an hour. The patients didn't need medical cabins or medicine. They could be healed after receiving the blessings of Rao's believers. Many habitual criminals would turn over a new leaf and become virtuous people after receiving the blessings. The African warlords had no choice but to put down their weapons and give everyone the right to live. Rao even personally took action. Many of the harsh natural environments became green mountains and clear waters. Resources were redistributed, and no one starved anymore. Disease, war, sin, poverty, and the problems that plagued mankind for thousands of years seemed to have been eliminated. This was just the beginning.